Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 558. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Did you guys have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I did too.
that's wonderful.
It was good. Did you guys do anything interesting or just like spend time with family? I mean, that's interesting too, but not really. But
I thought
What'd you guys do?
it was good to see. We saw family. We had family from out of town that was supposed to join us, but they got sick, so they couldn't make it. So we were gonna host like my brother and his family all weekend, and they didn't come down. So then all of a sudden we had like this open weekend, and it was really nice weather here, so we got a ton of stuff done. It was a surprisingly productive weekend.
nice. What does productive mean?
Oh, like we like transitioned the house from fall to winter,
Oh, okay.
because here in Wisconsin we have seasons.
Right.
So yeah, it was like get the Christmas lights up, clean out the garage, just kind of organize and get ready for winter, knowing that it's going to be here soon.
Sure. We have seasons too. We have seasons you don't even have.
Like
Yeah,
what?
wet and dry.
Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Oh, yeah, hurricane. True. But we have
Love bug season twice a year.
We have tornado. Like that's our hurricane. There's land hurricanes.
We have tornadoes and hurricanes. So
I mean, is it a hurricane that then goes over land, becomes a tornado, and then goes back out to sea again? Is it a hurricane or
It stays a hurricane even over land.
even over land? I figured that. Okay.
He sounds
What?
like someone who's never been in a hurricane.
Oh, I have never been in a hurricane. That is
You haven't?
completely- No.
you've been in a what do you call those? The snowstorms.
A
Blizzard.
snowstorm? Oh,
Blizzard.
yes, I've been in the blizzard. Yes.
I don't think I've ever been in a blizzard. So you got that one on me.
Okay.
I've been in a blizzard, a hurricane. I've been near a tornado.
Oh yeah.
And I've been in an earthquake.
Oh, you've got the quadfecta, whatever.
Quadfecta. What am I
Quadfecta,
missing?
There we go.
What's the next major natural disaster?
Monsoon.
Volcano. Yeah, volcano.
I feel like, is a monsoon very similar to a hurricane?
Volcano isn't weather related.
No, well, it's a natural disaster.
Why
We're
is it
talking-
not weather? We're talking natural disaster, not
Oh,
weather.
yeah, I guess
phenomena.
earthquake isn't weather related.
I don't
either.
think a monsoon is a hurricane. I think a monsoon is more an incredibly rainy season. like-
Oh, it's a
Like-
season?
yeah, 'cause
it's not an event. It's a
I think it's an
period of
event.
weeks.
There's a season in which they occur, just like hurricanes. But
But I believe they last weeks. Hurricanes last days. right,
but
over
a
lands they're
monsoon is
moving.
like a weather event that happens to cover weeks, whereas a hurricane is a weather event that maybe lasts a couple days at most. Most of them don't even last that long. But
So I don't know, and this is my not having knowledge of this. I don't know during a like the monsoon season if there's one monsoon it starts and it ends, or if there's like if we're considering each separate rainfall a monsoon, if there's a series of smaller monsoons that make up the
So
season.
I've done a significant amount of research in the last 10 seconds.
Yes, okay.
And what I've determined is that monsoon is a change of wind that brings wet and
okay.
conditions twice a year.
Mhm.
so
Are there-
so monsoon is like the entire season.
Yes, it's not the rain; it's just the whole event. according
It's a
to Zach.
shift in the winds
Yeah.
that causes a very rainy or dry season.
What are our wind-related natural disasters? We got monsoon, we've got hurricane, we have tornado. Are there any other wind disasters we're missing?
A white squall.
A white,
Ooh.
like a nor'easter?
What about El Nino? Is that wind related at all?
No, that isn't El Nino a change in the jet stream, which is technically wind related. That's more atmospheric pressure, though. Isn't wind just a change in atmosphere anyway? What is
Yes.
wind?
What's a gust?
I know what a gust. That is a short burst of wind.
I'm really glad that we decided to finally change this over to a meteorological podcast. You know, we've been talking about it for hundreds of episodes, but finally we've done it. We've done it.
I think longtime listeners have learned that each episode has its own little niche discussion. Because
Yeah.
we
Short-term
are
listeners have also learned that.
right. We are
This is-
masters of everything.
This is an educational podcast where
Yes.
you listen to us give ourselves an education on something that we
Next
don't
week,
know
we
anything
discuss
about, really.
space.
Right.
So if you
Uh,
want to prepare for next week, learn about space.
Sure.
James, did you experience the 89 earthquake in California? You were there at the time, right?
The 89 earthquake, the one
Yeah.
that was in San Francisco?
Yeah.
No, I was not in
Okay.
San Francisco. I was in plenty of earthquakes when I lived in California, but not that one. But
Okay.
I do remember it happening and it being a very big deal in California because of just how much destruction there was. The day before I moved to Florida, there was an earthquake, and I was staying in a friend's house who lived on a cliff that overlooked the ocean, and it freaked me out because even though it wasn't like a ginormous, crazy earthquake, the fact that half of his house was on poles overhanging the cliff meant that the whole house swayed way more than
Whoa.
any other building I was in during a hurricane. It was crazy. I did not want to move away from California except for that reason. That was one where I was like, I don't like this.
I realize I have been on an active volcano. It wasn't
Okay.
like a
One that was
Zach's rolling his
erupting?
eyes over there. it wasn't
Somehow you managed to mention the fact that you went to New Zealand again.
No. This is not New Zealand. This is Hawaii. Though I have been in New Zealand, Fiji, and Iceland. Love volcanoes.
Speaking of our list today,
Yeah.
our top 10
Volcanoes we've been on.
pretentious
when I'm on
movie
islands,
characters.
Yes. No, when I was in Hawaii, one of the volcanoes was erupting. Again, it wasn't like a Mount St. Helens, or Pompeii catastrophic situation. It was just a active volcano, and we were able to hike like within 10 feet of the slow moving lava flow, which was pretty cool.
You were within 10 feet of lava.
Yeah. It wasn't a lava river. This was like the lava that had crusted over on top. It was still active underneath. So if you like stepped in it, you would have burnt up. But it wasn't it was actively flowing. So like we had to keep sort of there was like a park ranger there who was kind of like with the public and sort of kept moving us as we were going. But I remember that the park ranger throwing a stick like within 5 feet of the lava. Maybe we were 15 feet. I don't know. We were pretty darn close to lava, right? And it was just like an open lava field. And the park rangers threw a stick next to the lava. And even before the lava touched the stick lit on fire. It was pretty cool. And it was also something where I didn't realize at first that we were looking at lava. Like there's all these people kind of standing there looking. I'm like, what are we looking at? And I was like, why are we going forward? And then I saw like a little bubble. Like, oh, that's actual lava moving towards us.
You're 15 feet from lava and you don't realize it from the heat?
Yeah. Exactly.
But yet a stick that was
a
closer,
couple feet from the lava, yeah.
combusted.
Yeah, again, this happened when I was like 9 years old, so I can't tell you the exact like sensation or the exact distance I was from it, but I was close and the stick was closer and it combusted.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was cool.
Not
That's
to bring this
Then when I was on
discussion
New
into the
Zealand-
realm of film.
Sorry.
Have you guys heard about that new volcano documentary that's out there that people are talking about? There's a new release documentary about a couple that have like dedicated their lives to researching volcanoes, and it's supposedly really good and will probably be in the Oscar discussion for documentaries.
James, that's actually an incredible segue to listener mail.
Is it? Really?
Yeah, it is. You'll see. It is.
All right. Well, I'm not ready for a segue yet, but
No, we're segueing now.
we're going to segue into telling people to check out the video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, find us there. You could also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast, get extra after show audio, amongst other Cinereelist swag. You could also leave us an Apple Podcast review, 5 stars only. We'd appreciate that. Or, as Kyle mentioned, you could send us an email to heyguys@cinereelist.com with a comment, question, list suggestion, movie suggestion, etc., etc. any of those kinds of things, we appreciate getting via email and will most likely discuss on the podcast, which, speaking of, we're going to do right now. We're going to talk about a few emails we've received over the last couple of weeks. First up is Kyle has an email for us.
Yep, I have an email from longtime listener, friend of the show, Troy Carruthers. The subject of this email is Top 10 Last 10. And he starts, Kyle, have you shared on the podcast which you say, Top 10 Last 10 or Last 10 Top 10? Would it be too divisive and controversial to weigh in? I bounce back and forth for the sake of diplomacy, but for the most part, I like Top 10 Last 10 better. Speaking of which, here is his list, which we'll get to in a second. I have thought about this, and I'm a Top 10 Last 10 person.
Yes.
Yes. And here is why. Here is why.
Okay.
When we do a list, like when we do movies set in Africa, we don't say movies set in Africa top 10. We say top 10 movies set in Africa. So when we're ranking our last 10 movies, we're going to say top 10 last 10. I also think top 10 last 10 rolls off the tongue better than last 10 top 10.
That is almost word for word my reasoning for liking that phrasing as well.
Is it really? Okay.
Right, Zach?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, I see what
He's
you're
trying.
saying.
He's trying.
No, yeah, I guess I disagree on both points.
No.
Well, of course you do.
We do, when we do our list, we do like the top 10 movies about birds. Of course we do.
Have we
Right.
done top 10 movies about birds?
No, but
No.
we would.
Okay, let's add that to the list of potential lists.
Sure.
However, our last 10 top 10 is not just a continuation of our normal top 10 lists. It's a separate thing. It's not a top 10 list.
It is a top 10.
We're not-
It's a top 10
we're
list.
not-
What are you talking about?
We are taking a 10 movies, we're ranking them, hence a top
No.
10.
I just want you to listen for just a second.
All right.
This is not a top 10 list. That's what makes it unique. It is a last 10 list. So in the same way that our top 10 lists, we always say a top 10 movies about birds. Our last 10 top 10, it's not a top 10 list. It's not the 10 best movies of some subject. It is a last 10 list where it's the last 10 movies that we've seen. And so in the same way that we do top 10 movies about birds as a top 10 list, we would do our last 10 list for our last 10 top 10.
Okay, give me an example of another last 10 that's not a top 10.
So,
Like
hold
a
on.
last 10 what?
Last 10 meals I ate.
Last 10 meals you ate. But it's not top 10
It's-
So
last
if we
10
did a
meals you
last
ate.
10 top 10 of our meals we ate, it would be our last 10 meals, not our best meals ever. That would be a top 10 list.
So just a list of our last 10 meals.
That's what a last 10 top 10 is, right?
No.
No, but
Instead of
we,
meals, it's movies.
but we rank those top 10. No, it's different
Right.
because last 10, there's no ranking. You're saying, what are my last 10 meals? Here they are.
No. In the genre of a last 10 top 10, if it was meals instead of movies, we would still rank them. We would rank of the last 10 meals we had. How do we rank them?
So it would be top 10 last 10 meals.
No.
So
No, because a
how-
top 10 list is
how-
is the best of the category.
How do you communicate to someone who is not familiar that this is a top 10 ranking of, this is a ranking of your last 10 meals? Because if you just say last 10 meals, to me, that just says, what are your last 10 meals? So how are you going to communicate that this is a ranking of your last 10 meals?
Well, we do explain what the list is every time. So that's
Sure.
helpful.
Yes, but,
But in the title.
right, top 10, last
glance.
10 is pretty clear
And
off
then-
the bat what's happening.
And then as far as the second point goes,
Okay.
you say you think top 10, last 10 rolls off the tongue better.
Like
For
butter.
me, I love the alliteration of the top 10,
Mhm.
right? And it makes sense to me to put the alliteration at the end. Like it starts slow and then it speeds up as the sentence goes. I find that much more satisfying than to start quick and end slow.
So you like LTTT instead of TTLT.
Well, we never ever in the history of the show have ever referred to it like that. I like the idea of like you end on the alliteration, you end on the quicker note, last 10, top 10. Whereas you guys are like, okay, let's burn all of the great stuff at the beginning, the alliteration, the peppy speed, and then end on the exaggerated half note.
If
Right,
there is
but if that was the
any
case-
word to describe a top 10 last 10 episode, it'd definitely be peppy speed.
If that was the case, wouldn't we be calling this week's list Pretentious Movie Characters Top 10?
Well, so again, I do
that
want to
alliteration's
draw a
at the end.
distinction. I do want to draw a distinction, James,
Uh-huh.
that there's a fundamental difference between our top 10 lists and our last 10 lists. Because a top 10 list is we're trying to find the 10 best of all the movies we've seen. But a last
Right.
10 is strictly limited to the last 10 movies we've seen. So the calculus is always going to be different on a last 10 list than on a top 10 list.
So let's say we were doing a top list of a director that directed exactly 10 films. You're saying we should put the top 10 at the end because there's only 10
No.
films.
No,
To
James,
choose from.
No,
Right?
I don't think that's at all what I'm saying. Let me say this. If we did a list of the last 10 Spielberg movies we watched,
Mm-hmm.
we would call it the last 10 Spielberg movies that we watched.
Ranked. We put the ranked,
Ranked.
at the end.
Yeah, we put a ranked in there for sure. That's what the top 10 implies. So if we made a movie
implies.
that's the last 10 Spielberg movies that we watched, it would not be called top 10 last Spielberg movies that we watched. It would be called last 10 Spielberg movies that we watched, ranked.
Ranked.
Right?
Ranked. You keep adding the ranked in there, though.
Right. That's what the
is-
top 10. No. Kyle, that's what top 10 is talking about, the ranking.
Yeah,
top
but,
10 is almost synonymous with ranked.
But
I mean-
right now you're saying top 10 is two things. Top 10 is one, a list we do weekly that we rank, and top 10 is now a special list that we're doing. And we can't have two. You can have in your case there's two top 10s. And James and I are saying there's one top 10 and it's a top 10.
I want you to engage with what I just said about the Spielberg movies. If we did a list of the last 10 Spielberg movies that we called, do you think we'd call it top 10 last 10 movies of the Spielberg that we saw? Or would we call it last 10 Spielberg movies that we saw ranked?
Top 10 last 10 Spielberg movies. I think top 10 last 10 Spielberg movies works. No, I'm kidding. I'm serious. But I see
Or
what you're
like
saying.
top 10 last 10 Spielberg edition.
Ooh, a Spielberg. I like that.
Okay, so you could make it work like that, but personally, I think last 10 Spielberg movies rolls off the tongue a little bit better.
Well, Troy,
Ranked.
to answer your question,
Ranked.
would it be too divisive and controversial to weigh in? Yes. Yes, it would be.
I think honestly, I see both sides. I prefer the one that Kyle and I are leaning towards for sure.
Yeah.
But also I'm fine with Zach considering it the other one.
Yeah.
It's fine with me if you prefer that one.
Can I throw just one last little plot twist into this whole thing?
Sure.
I used to be team last 10, top 10
Oh, okay.
until I joined the podcast and started saying it. And then I realized I was team top 10, last 10.
Just saying, so as far as the mouth feel of it, the sound of
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
you don't like how last 10 top 10 sounds.
Honestly,
It's out of the pattern.
Yeah, I was fine with how it sounded because I was a last 10 top 10 shipper
Mhm.
pre 2020. And then once I started saying it, I was like, hey, you know what? Top 10 last 10 just for me rolls off the tongue better.
It's kind of like let's say you were going to trademark a name, right? Or you were trying to figure out your business name and you needed it to be public, you needed it to be snappy, you needed it to be catchy. You could go with semantically exactly what it is, but that's not necessarily snappy or catchy. And maybe top 10 last 10 isn't semantic enough for Zach's purposes. But I think generally, because of the pattern of a top 10 list, most top 10 lists, not even Cinereelist top 10 lists, I'm just talking top 10 lists in general, don't follow with the top 10. They always lead with the top 10. So if just from like a listener or a reader expectation, top 10's at the beginning. That everybody understands what's going on if you put top 10 at the beginning.
you think it's considerably more confusing for the listener to
I
hear
think-
last 10 top 10?
I think it's
Then top 10
absolutely
last
not confusing if top 10's at the beginning. And I think you have to stop and think about it if it's at the end. Will it be so confusing that they won't understand? Probably not. But it's definitely less wordy than putting ranked at the end or any of those other things. It's like, it's a top 10 of the last 10. Pretty easy to understand. If it's the last 10, top 10, also pretty easy to understand, in my opinion. But also doesn't follow traditional formula of top 10 lists.
I mean, the Billboard top 40, like I think in the zeitgeist, there's both. People are very used to
No, but Billboard's the brand name. We would say like the Cinereelists top 10 last 10. Like they're saying the Billboard top 40. Now I believe that's actually like the Billboard top 40 #1 songs.
But people don't say that.
shorten it to Billboard. Yeah, so it'd be us to be like Cinereelist top 10.
right. I'm just saying people are comfortable with having top 10 at the end.
I'll also mention that multiple podcasts have requested to use this, and all of them use our phrasing.
Is that true?
Yes,
Is it?
it's true.
Have
Is
we
it true?
As far as I know,
trademarked it
there's
yet?
only one that's still doing it. But in the early days of this podcast, we had multiple people ask us if they could use the format, and they all used top 10, last 10.
We got to license this. Why aren't we making money off?
I don't
And
think
you know
it's that
what?
big a
Let's
deal.
just trademark them both so people can choose what they want.
All right. So where
All right.
have we landed? Nothing's changed except Kyle flipped to Team James.
Yep. Dean James on
At
this
some
one.
point in the last 100 or so episodes, he flipped.
Yep, just the repetitive talking got it through me. Well, anyway, here is Troy's. Now he just wants to throw a match on the flame or on the fire, and he calls it his last 10 top 10. So
Okay.
let's go here. All right, his number 10 is Amsterdam from 2022. He doesn't really know what it was about. Number 9 was The School for Good and Evil. He thinks it would be a 4 or 5 star movie if he was the target audience. Number 8, Blonde, also 2022. Anyone see this movie? The Ana de Armas, Marilyn Monroe movie?
No, it's so long, and I heard it's like
I heard it's
kind of
bad.
narrative-less.
Yeah. So
That it's like watching Spring Breakers, but like twice as long. It's just like a weird, middling fever dream movie.
yeah, I was intrigued by it until I read the reviews. I was like, I think I can skip that one.
No.
Number 7, Missing Link, which is a Leica animation movie. Number 6, Into the Deep, the Submarine Murder Case. This is a documentary, and I want to watch this just based on that title. I'm intrigued. Number 5, You Were Never Really Here. I believe this is the Joaquin Phoenix movie. He said Different and Dark. Number 4, Luckiest Girl Alive, also from 2022. Number 3, these are 4-star movies now. The Banshees of Inisherin. This is the newest Martin McDonagh movie, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
I think this is streaming soon, if not already.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I read because I'm intrigued by that one. Number 2, 4.5 stars for The Woman King. He says it's better than Braveheart.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a bold claim to make. And number 1 from 2014, It Follows. He says, I've been meaning to watch this for so long after hearing you guys sing its praises so many times. It was everything you said it was. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite horrors for sure.
I don't think I've ever heard Kyle talk about It Follows. Have you seen that movie?
I have seen It Follows, yeah.
And?
I liked it. I dig allegorical horror.
All right.
So, yeah, I thought it was well done. It's not too it's unsettling, but it's not too like gory, creepy horror that I don't care for. It has its moments for sure.
Right at the beginning, it has a pretty bold moment, and then it actually
Yeah.
tames for the rest of the movie. Oddly
Yeah, I would
enough.
say if it kept it up what it gave me at the beginning, I may not have liked it as much, but
Mhm.
where it went and how it presented the horror aspects I liked.
Mhm. Nice.
That was Troy's top 10 last 10. Thank you.
I've seen
Troy.
Amsterdam, and I like that movie. I don't know why you didn't like it.
He just said he couldn't really figure out what it's supposed to be about.
It's by the same guy who did I Heart Huckabees and Three Kings and
Oh, David O. Russell.
yeah, David O. Russell.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of a messy movie, but I liked it. Thought it was good, decent. I don't know about good, decent. And he's right. The Missing Link is not a good Leica stop motion animation movie.
Oh, that's too bad. I've been wanting to see that one. I like Leica.
Kids might have a different opinion. There might be more for them because it's made for kids, but didn't work for me. All right. We got another email here. This one is from who? Andrew James, friend of the show, former guest on this podcast. Andrew writes, just a quick note on your comment about the future of war movies. Zach was away from the mic. Do you guys remember a time when Zach was away from the mic? Maybe you just weren't there. Did we talk war movies and Zach wasn't here?
Did I like have to run out to my daughter or something?
Or you dropped out one time, I think.
Okay.
And James and I just kind of kept talking.
All right. Andrew continues. There are two really good drone movies. Eye in the Sky, starring Helen Mirren, incredibly intense and engaging, and Good Kill, starring Ethan Hawke. I've
seen Eye in the Sky.
I have too. I haven't seen Good Kill. I've never even heard of that.
I haven't, but I do enjoy good Ethan Hawke.
You haven't seen Eye in the Sky, Kyle?
I have not, no.
You could absolutely watch that movie. It's good.
Didn't Shia LaBeouf do a drone movie also?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. All right. I think I confuse Eye in the Sky with a Shia LaBeouf movie. And maybe that's why I've avoided it. But the Helen Mirren one sounds much more interesting.
Remember the actor who's like, I'm the captain now in Captain Phillips?
Yeah.
He's an Eye in the Sky. So if you want to see another movie with that guy, that's your movie.
He was in another movie. He was a security guard at a closed down carnival. What movie was that?
He was a security guard.
Yes. Oh no.
Down carnival.
Maybe it was oh shoot. It could have been. No, it wasn't that movie. All right. I'm really curious to know. I remember seeing a movie.
30 minutes later?
I have to know what this movie
No, it's not
is.
30 minutes later. What? Okay. I'll look it up while you guys keep going on.
Good
I'll try
Time?
to figure out.
Was it Good Time?
No,
Shazam.
it was not. Was it Good Time?
I don't know why that was so funny to me, but it was.
All right. I'll figure it out, but I definitely saw him in another movie.
Sure.
The way back.
I'll figure it out. You guys go on. I'll figure it out.
All right. What's the verdict on Good Kill? What does Rotten Tomatoes say? I don't trust Andrew. Huh? We're talking tomato meter on Good Kill from 2014. Ooh, with January Jones. 76%. Not bad. Although the audience is split. 49%.
It's not great.
I'm into it though. I'll take the challenge. The Andrew James challenge. Andrew finishes his email with a sign off. As you were, soldiers. Andrew. Thanks, Andrew. We appreciate the email. I think we got one more that Zach's going to read to us. Oh, Kyle has an update.
Figured it out. Okay, so the guy from Captain Phillips, whose name is, and you just get the button ready for this, James.
I'm the security guard now.
Barkhad Abdi, which I probably actually said correctly.
Barkhad Abdi?
Barkhad Abdi, yep.
I'm gonna give you the pass because I don't know if that's wrong or not.
All right. So he in Good Time he plays Dash, the parking security.
Oh, I had
guard.
it right. He's in Good Time.
He's in Good Time, and then he's also in Blade Runner. I remember he played Blade Runner 2049, not the original Blade Runner.
Sure.
And he plays like a merchant of animal pelts or something like that. So
nice. Has his moment passed?
Animal pelts.
Has his moment passed?
When's the last movie he was in?
I mean, he's known for Captain Phillips 2013, Eye in the Sky 2015, and then 2 2017 movies. So I would say
Bummer. I like that guy. I wish he was in more things.
He was in Blade Runner Black Lotus, the TV series.
Oh, I tried to watch that. It was hard. I didn't make it.
I would say his last big movie was Blade Runner 2049.
That was a while ago.
So he's still acting, but I believe his moment has passed in the sense of his cultural presence.
Bummer. Bring Abdi back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Abdi.
Zach, you have another email for us?
Yes, this one is from Justin Eddy. He says, "Hey guys, a couple quick movie recommendations. Number one, since I know you all are big on documentaries, Kyle, is that true about you?"
I mean, if it's about submarine murders, I'm in.
Okay, so yeah, I think James and I are big on documentaries. Kyle has a niche in submarine murders. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Was wondering if you've heard of Fire and Love. It came out this year, produced by National Geographic, I think. It's on Disney Plus now. It's very well made and an interesting story. Check it out.
This is what I was just talking about.
This
is
was
the documentary about the
to set
volcano
up right here. Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah, Fire and Love. Fire of Love.
Fire and Love.
I believe it's actually called Fire
Love.
of Love. He wrote Fire and Love, but so Justin's not even recommending the right movie to us. So you guys can't watch Fire of Love. You have to go find Fire and Love and watch that one.
I'm going to see if there is a Fire and Love movie.
I don't know if there is. There's a Fire and Ice, but I don't know if there's a Fire and Love.
No. Okay, so I haven't seen the movie. I would like to see the movie.
Okay.
James, have you seen it yet?
Are you taking the Justin challenge?
Oh, for sure. I'm taking the Justin challenge.
Okay.
Are you as well?
I will watch it. Sure. Why not?
But we have to check it out, he says. So maybe I'll see if my library has it. Okay, number 2. Another one to keep on your radar is 2022's Decision to Leave, directed by Park Chan-wook from The Handmaiden and Old Boy. I think it comes in on VOD in December. I managed to catch a screening when I was traveling for work. It was great. Add it to the watch list for sure.
That I'm intrigued by. I like Park Chan-wook.
Okay. Anyone know anything about this film plot-wise?
I don't know anything plot-wise, but it is on my radar. And supposedly Mubi is supposed to have it soon.
Mubi?
Mubi, M-U-B-I.
Okay. It's a romantic mystery.
Okay.
I like romantic mysteries.
A detective investigating a man's death in the mountains ends up meeting and developing feelings for the dead man's mysterious wife.
Okay.
Knowing that it's Park Chan-wook, there's probably more to it than that.
He then goes on to say that he's listening to Patreon for free somehow. And I say, more power to you, man. And then he says, have a great Thanksgiving. Love, always. 1989, Justin.
And Justin, we'll go ahead and retro charge you for all that free Patreon once you have your whole account figured out. So don't worry about that. We'll square you up.
Make sure whatever credit card you attach it to has a very large whatever the word is.
Yeah, there is the late
limit.
fees, and those compound. So FYI, it was in the fine print. You should have read it better when you signed up for Patreon. By the way, we have Patreon.
Kyle, you're all about the lame segues today.
I thought the Fire of Love was a good one because I read ahead and I was like, oh, this is gonna come up. We just got to go right into it.
Well, thank you guys for your emails. We appreciate it. If you'd like to send us an email, heyguys@cinereelists.com, and we'll discuss it on the show. Let's get in.
Compose those emails just like today's movie.
Like the lead character of the movie we're going to discuss? Is that what you're trying to say,
It's just
Kyle?
going to be crappy transitions for the rest of the show, guys. FYI.
If you keep doing that, we're going to tar and feather you.
All right. Let's talk our movie for this week. It's on VOD right now. The movie is titled Tar. Here's a clip.
Time is the thing. Time is the essential piece of interpretation. You cannot start without me. See, I start the clock. Now, my left hand, it shapes, but my right hand, the second hand, marks time and moves it forward. However, unlike a clock, sometimes my second hand stops, which means that time stops. Now, the illusion is that, like you, I'm responding to the orchestra in real time, making the decision about the right moment to restart the thing or reset it or throw time out the window altogether. The reality is that right from the very beginning, I know precisely what time it is and the exact moment that you and I will arrive at our destination together.
That was Tar, a 2022 drama directed, written, and produced by Todd Field, starring Cate Blanchett, Noemi Merlant, Nina Haas, Sophie Cower, Julian Glover, Alan Cordoner, and Mark Strong, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Tar is: set in the international world of Western classical music, the film centers on Lydia Tarr, widely considered one of the greatest living composer-conductors and first ever female music director of a major German orchestra. Sure, roughly, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I would say, without giving away a single plot detail.
Well, the movie doesn't give away a single plot detail for an hour and a half.
That's pretty true, I would say. All right, we've all seen Tar. This one is, I would say, a part of the awards conversation that's going on right now and will continue to go on for the next couple months. I think mainly for Cate Blanchett's performance, I think, is most of the steam it has. But there's possibility of like script and direction, maybe even cinematography on some level.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to watch it when it became available on VOD. I said, hey, let's talk about this. And so here we are talking about it. Do you guys want me to go first, or does somebody else have something burning to say?
I will say my sister-in-law came into town for Thanksgiving.
Which one?
Emily. And she wanted to watch a movie. And she says, is there anything you have to watch for Cinereelists? We could watch that together. And so I said, there's this movie Tar that we're going to talk about next week. And I read the plot synopsis on IMDb. And I said, other than this, I know nothing about the film whatsoever. And my wife and my sister-in-law both said, that sounds really interesting. Let's watch that. And so we sat down and we started watching it. And after about 25 minutes, they both asked if we could turn it off.
I was going to make a prediction.
Yeah. So we stopped watching it at that point. So
Sure.
it didn't pass their 25-minute rule.
Man, 25 minutes is harsh. At least you should give it 45.
Well, I mean, I can understand why they weren't engaged with it.
I think
were you engaged with it, Zach?
I have a very high tolerance for films to get to the point.
Yep.
I've watched some pretty artsy films, and I'm more than willing to wait it out and see what happens, and then I reserve judgment until after the film's over. So even later, like they were asking me, like, are you gonna finish Tar? Are you gonna watch it? Like, did you hate it or what'd you think? And I was like, well, I haven't seen it. And that's true. I'd only seen the first 25 minutes. So I was like, I wonder if the entire movie will be this or if it will have a plot. But I was intrigued to continue.
Nice. I can definitely see how somebody who's just looking for some light entertainment, this is not the movie for that. I think if your version of light entertainment is like, slow burn character piece, then this actually is right up your alley. But if you're looking
what we
for
watched instead was I'll Be Home for Christmas, the Jonathan Taylor Thomas Christmas movie from the late 90s.
Sure.
Did they 25-minute rule that one?
No. Oh, we watched the whole thing.
That one gets to the point, I'm sure. with this movie and others like it, I think some people are just never going to like them, and that's okay. There's movies made for all kinds of people. I think some people kind of have to work their way into these kinds of movies, and then once they've seen a couple that have been slow burn but pay off in spades, all that investment, then you tend to give other slow burns a break, even if they're not getting there fast enough for you. So I do think that even people who don't think they like slow burns can condition themselves into experiencing them. And I think Tar might be a decent movie for that, for sure. Not all of them are. Some of them are slow burns. They're going to stay slow. Nothing's going to happen. And then the credits are going to roll. This one at least did you the favor of rolling the credits at the beginning.
Right. Yes, it did.
You know what I mean? So by the time the end of the movie happened, you could stand up and leave. You weren't going to miss anything.
Was there? They made that joke even. Was there a discernible reason why that was the case?
I don't know.
That's not a good enough reason.
No, I know. I'm not sure why they did that. And like there was someone was kind of singing in the background the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And for those first 5 minutes, I was like, oh boy, what are we watching? If we have the credits on a black screen with like muffled singing in the background, what
Did you
journey are we
notice the
going on?
credits were possibly in the smallest font I've ever seen?
I did not read the credits
In a
because
film.
I couldn't read those credits. I needed binoculars.
By credits, too, we should say 5 minutes of full credits.
Right,
Not
like
everything.
everything.
Right. Everything
And-
that would be at the end of the movie was at the beginning of this movie.
In reverse order, though.
Right.
Yeah, it started with no animals were harmed making this film and then went all the way to director.
I wonder if we watch this movie backwards, if it's different. Maybe that's what they're trying to say.
It's a great story of. Never mind.
No, I don't think it is.
No?
I don't think so.
I mean, no spoilers here, but where the movie ends, you could imagine somebody starting there and then working their way towards the beginning of the
Yeah,
movie.
but that's not at all what the movie's talking about.
Sure.
No. I agree with Zach. I don't think the movie would play different backwards.
All right.
Yeah.
If
If anything, maybe they're taking a known idea in culture and turning it on its head. I don't know if that's a reason enough to put the
yeah, I
credits
know
backwards.
back in the day, right? They used to do way more credits at the beginning than they did at the end.
You used to
Oh,
have
for
to.
sure. But these credits were backwards. So it's not just a callback to how things used to be done, because they literally had the end of the credits first and the beginning of the credits last at the beginning of the movie.
That's true. But back in the day, did they start with like a director and then move to the least of the credits, or did they start with a?
No,
They did.
they
They
would
start
have,
with the cast.
yeah, or it might be like production, cast, all of the behind the scenes, and then it would end with like produced, maybe score, director, like all the major ones would come at the very end.
They
Okay.
never started with the VFX house.
No,
Well, why would they? This was like in the 30s.
Yeah, exactly. They never started with like computer graphics teams and,
they also
around the
listed
world.
like 50 names back then, so there was a lot less people. I mean, still a lot of people work on the movies, but a lot of people got credit in the credits for that work.
I wonder what started that. What made that? Like, what in film history? Who made the decision? Okay, we're going to be the first movie that puts our credits at the end. We'll
I think
maybe.
it was
It was Star
I think it was one guy. I thought it was Hitchcock, maybe.
who put him
Really?
at the end.
Yeah.
And that's because he's a suspense guy and he just wanted to get to the story type of thing.
I forget the exact reason. I'm looking it up now. Kyle, do you know?
I always thought of Star Wars as maybe not being the first to put him at the end, but to kind of be the final nail in the coffin of we're gonna get right to the movie and then give you the credits at the end.
I feel like it was way after Star Wars. You're talking 1977.
You mean before?
I mean, way before.
Before, yeah. I'm not saying Star Wars was the first to do it, but
Sure. But I feel like most movies were doing it by the mid 70s at least, if not way before.
even the
then.
60s, yeah, it was no longer happening as often.
Okay, so the movie is about a composer, an orchestra composer.
Conductor.
She's conductor rather.
Yeah.
She's conducting a German or the
Berlin.
German orchestra,
The
a
Berlin,
major
yeah,
German orchestra.
that's one of the biggest orchestras in the world. Yeah.
Right. I'll be transparent here. I don't know much about these topics, but maybe we'll defer to our cool guy band teacher on this episode. How high up is that as far as like prestige for conducting? The movie presents it as pretty high.
It's like one of the greatest orchestras in the world. Top
Okay.
3, top 5. Yeah.
Gotcha. So that conductor is played by Kate Blanchett, who is female, and they also make a deal in the movie about the fact that she's like the first female to direct this specific orchestra, and that she's very good at her job, and people respect her and look up to her for being a good composer and also some of the other
Conductor.
accomplishments. Conductor.
Conductor,
Sorry.
yeah.
I'm going to keep doing that. Guaranteed.
Yes, you are.
It's because of Kyle's composing pun at the beginning.
Sure. So that's her perception outside of like just her as a person, what people perceive her at. You get to spend time with her as she's in these practice sessions, as she's dealing with people she works with, just kind of the day-to-day life that revolves around her at, I don't know, the venue within the organization. And you get to see how her employees react to her, how she deals with them. And you kind of get the feeling that she's very self-absorbed. She's not a very nice person, I would say. Very talented by all accounts in the movie, but just very self-centered and focused on her and her performance, and very knowledgeable and not afraid to let people know that she's very knowledgeable in kind of pretentious ways, I would say. So it's definitely a character piece. There are broader, more substantial plot points that happen later on in the film that maybe we'll discuss in spoilers, but that's kind of what the movie has to offer you as a premise. And then those plot points we'll leave out, because if you're not into character pieces, at least maybe a couple of the plot points we've left out will leave you interested in what you just watched. So what did you guys think of Tar?
Kyle?
I really liked this movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew as much as the IMDb plot synopsis going into it, and I was excited just because it is a music movie about a conductor. And I agree with you, Zach, for the first, I don't know, the first act at least, you're not really sure what this movie is about besides about this character. Like, is there a discernible plot to it? And for a lot of people, that could be a barrier of entry of like, okay, like it's a character study, but what's this about? But for me, so much of that character study was focused on the world of conducting and of music, and specifically on this piece, Mahler's Fifth Symphony, which is probably his most famous symphony. I wrote a essay on the first movement of Mahler's Fifth Symphony back in college, so I was very familiar with this composition, and they focus a lot on the first movement of the piece. So I was completely steeped in the musical world of the whole thing, even though there wasn't much of a plot. I was just really enjoying kind of being back in that and looking at the score study and hearing her talk, composers with her students and all of that. Like even the little things, like she's very sensitive to sound throughout the movie. Like there's, appliances are humming or people are clicking pens, and like it's something that she's always just sort of like noticing, and that's something that I find myself doing. I'm like if I hear like something, a rattling or something, like, what's that noise? So I don't know. I saw a lot of those musician traits in her, which I thought made her a really compelling character. And then as the movie goes on, you get more and more of this plot, which doesn't fully spell things out for you. I think there's definitely I have some questions were left a little up in the air, but just to watch how this plot that's relevant to now sort of unfolded slowly, and to see how this character and the characters around her responded to everything, I just found fascinating. I was again, I was brought in by the composition, and then even though this is a long movie, I was hooked all the way through to the end to see where we were going with it.
Yeah, I generally agree as well. I wasn't quite sure about it when they were doing the interview at the beginning when she's like on the stage with the New Yorker interviewer, and
Yeah.
they were definitely talking about things that I did not have any reference to, right? They were going as best I can tell as somebody who doesn't know these things, they were going deep on terminology and
Yes.
stuff like that. They were highfalutin talk for me.
And like talking the significance of doing all the Mahler compositions in a season and why they're saving number 5 for last, and
Right.
it all spoke to me. All that I was totally like, I could have just been in that audience, no problem whatsoever.
They were
Right.
using a lot of them $10 words.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm not saying it didn't speak to me. I know I am saying that. It did not
But,
speak to me, but I did
topically, it wasn't
enjoy the
relevant to
idea
you
that
at all.
like
Yeah.
I enjoyed the idea that even though I didn't know what they were talking about, this is a room that probably happens all the time in societies that I'm not participating in, you know what I mean? In big cities with orchestras to their name type of thing. And so I like being a fly on the wall in movies, and you were definitely that for me. That was my experience in that scene. And then once you get out of that and you get more of like the interpersonal back office type, relationship drama stuff, I sank into the idea that I didn't have to know what they were talking about on that stage. But there is a lot of that up front. And then over the course of the movie, you go from seeing somebody who is very self-assured to somebody who is very insecure, I would say, and is the cracks start to show as the movie goes on, and you get to know her as a person as opposed to her as a respected public figurehead. And I like that about the movie, and I think that's what would make it watchable for most people, because I don't think most people would understand that conversation that's going on the stage. But I don't think you have to either to understand the movie. I really like the cinematography. I like the slow burn. Remember that movie we saw a couple years ago, Zach? I think Kyle's probably seen it, but Burning was similar. Like there's
Yeah.
just nothing happening until something happens right at the end. And then you're
Man,
like,
Bernie was so good.
you kind of make the decision whether it was worth the investment only if you make it to the end.
Yeah.
But otherwise, none of it makes sense until you kind of see the outcome. That's not to say there's like some big twist or anything crazy at the end. But this is just one of those movies. I thought it was like very like a measured movie that presented people as they were, as the story wanted to present them, but like not in a false way or extreme ways, just like in a very realistic human way. And I liked its take on gender and the idea that she's getting a lot of public credit for being who she is and the role that she's in, but in reality she didn't see herself that way, or she didn't necessarily, I didn't get the sense that she liked being presented that way. And that some of the things that maybe people in her position of the opposite sex had been accused of, she wanted to participate in those things too. She's like, hey, when you get to be this person, you get to do these things. And she was going to do them whether she was female or male. You know what I mean? At least that's the side attitude I got from the characterization of the movie. And it's a really quiet movie. Like, I don't think there's any yelling. Well, there's a couple yelling scenes.
There's some yelling.
What?
But
There's a little bit of yelling.
There's a little
like-
bit of yelling.
Like, it's not an overly dramatic movie. There's no big. I mean, there are some big moments, but there's no like big character. I wish you were dead marriage story kind of arguments.
It's not Whiplash.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's never yells at her people. She just subtly undermines people that doesn't fit her agenda, basically. And she makes them look crazy for opposing her decisions. And she's very, very controlling. I rewatched it.
Oh, wow.
And there's a scene, I think Kyle kind of mentioned it, where she's about to tell a guy that he needs to move on. And she walks into his room, compliments the awards on his wall, he stands up and has a pen in his hand
Yes,
and
that
he clicks it a couple
moment.
times, like a clicky pen. It's really subtle. He clicks it a couple times. Then she invites him to go to the other side of the room and he puts the pen down on his desk. And she very subtly, as she walks by his desk, picks up the pen and slides it into her pocket.
I thought that was such a great character moment to show of
Yeah.
like how she wants to be in control of the situation and how like anything that is outside of her perception of what should be happening is going to be taken away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The clicky pen annoyed her.
Yep.
And instead of saying she was annoyed, she just stole the pen, basically.
It's like the same
Even though
thing
he
you
was
do-
probably not going to do it again.
it's the same thing you do to like a 3-year-old. Like when like your child's playing with a toy and it's, I don't know, like whatever, they're being rough with it, they're annoying, they set it down, and while they're not looking, you just kind of pick it up and move it out of their sight line. So when they look back, they're distracted by something else. She was treating him like a child.
Right. And there's several moments where she does that to people, and most of the time they don't even realize she's doing it. Sometimes they definitely know what's going on, especially the people that know her the most. They know when she's doing it. They've identified the pattern, and those are the situations that tend to not go well for her. But yeah, I really liked how subtle the movie is while also being very clear what's going on here and not necessarily being judgy, just presenting the story as it unfolds. Yeah. What'd you think of it, Zach?
Yeah, so there, especially at the beginning, but there's parts of this movie that are pretty dense. Like you were saying, James, it's like reading James Joyce. It's just like they're referencing things and switching languages every now and then, and you're just like, okay, what are we doing here? But part of that, it doesn't matter if you're following everything that they're saying. You're getting those character notes from them about like what do they value, how do they present themselves, what level they kind of are operating on or want to be operating on, kind of a thing. I really appreciated how subtle this film is. So many movies, my complaint is they think we're idiots and they just over explain everything, like someone just betrayed someone and then you have a character come in and say like, I can't believe they betrayed us. And it's just like, do we need to spell out absolutely everything in a movie? And this movie, it walks a very fine line between under explaining and leaving you confused. And I feel like this movie does not leave you confused, but it does not over explain things. It's very meticulous in how it lays out information. And I really appreciate that it's not dumbing itself down in order for us to follow. I like that a lot. There's some really great scenes, like the scene where she's like teaching, that class, like probably about half an hour in. I don't know if that was a oneer or not. I wasn't paying attention that closely.
It was.
But it was, but after about 5 or 10 minutes of it, I was just like, they must have hired the best focus puller in the world, because imagine messing up the focus on that. Cause there's constantly, she's moving from foreground to background to like, I mean, it's just, she's moving in the frame in depth so much. And with so much going into her performance, there's only so many times the focus puller can mess up before everyone is just incredibly frustrated. So he must have been, or he or she must have been amazing, because the focus was always perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, that really stuck out to me. So there's great cinematography in this that's just effortless, and it doesn't have to be. And some scenes are like 10 seconds long, and it's just kind of like, I found it very dynamic, in a way. So yeah, I enjoyed the movie. The message of the movie I think is very interesting. It's about, it's very topical to right now, but it presents it with characters in a way that's very disarming. And I like that she's treated, it's so measured how she's treated, like she's as a woman in a male dominated field. I'm assuming it's male dominated.
Yes, it is.
As a woman in a male dominated field, she's not given extra like leeway, and she's also not judged harsher. You know, we treat her and think of her and see her the same way we would anyone in that situation in all her different moments. I don't think we ever like the movie never wants us to think, oh, she's a woman, and so we should think of her in some better or worse light, kind of a thing. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but anyways, yeah, I enjoyed the movie, and then we get some revelations later on, you know, like about her family and stuff like that, and it just adds a extra little nuance that the movie doesn't like throw a spotlight on. It just puts in there, and it just fleshes out the character even more in ways that aren't explored, and I appreciated it.
I think we've hardly mentioned that so much of the success of this movie is Kate Blanchett herself.
Mhm.
Because if this was given to a lesser actor, you would not be getting all this nuance, all these little character details. It would just kind of
Who-
fall flat.
Who would have been a big miscast in your mind?
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I even think like Emma Stone.
Perfectly fine actress.
Yeah,
Or
I-
actor,
like-
whatever you want to
yeah.
say. But
like Emma Stone's a good actor, but I don't think she could pull off all those subtle touches that Kate Blanchett is.
yeah, and maybe those two we mentioned could. I don't know. But Kate Blanchett seems to
I would have loved to see Jennifer Coolidge in that role.
sure. It would be interesting.
I-
It feels
yeah.
like you'd have a lot more hurdles than you would start with Kate Blanchett. But yeah, I feel like Kate Blanchett is the type of person you'd expect to be in this type of movie. And so that being said, at least when I sat down to watch it, I didn't have to come to any like crazy logic leaps or anything like that to believe that she was like a brilliant composer. I guess she doesn't come with baggage, I guess is what I'm saying. Like some actors do when you sit down. It'd be like if Arnold Schwarzenegger was the conductor in this movie. I would be approaching it differently than when Kate Blanchett is the conductor of the movie.
I want to see Amadeus starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Gotta keep it Austrian. Just keep it,
Yeah, which is interesting because the movie does make a point at least once, maybe twice, to talk about typecasting.
Mhm.
Like the idea that you get the idea of what a person's like, or the public gets the idea of what a person's like, and then you put them in that role, and it's hard for them to work their way out of it. So it's kind of what we're doing with actors here, but so be it. I guess that's the reality of being a public artist, as the movie presents. Yeah, I if you don't like character pieces, slow burn character pieces, I don't think you'll like this. But if you do, I think it's one of the better of those of recent memory.
Agreed.
But there's definitely other things to talk about that I think we will cover in spoilers for those that have seen the movie or those that want to hear more about it before they dive in. Anything else before we letterbox rank this?
Yeah, I had one small nitpick.
Okay.
Doesn't affect my enjoyment of the movie, but there's a scene where they're doing blind auditions for the orchestra, and after one person auditions, Kate Blanchett's character sees that person. Like they're behind a screen the whole time, but they see them walking upstairs, and the screen has like a little bit showing at the bottom, so they see Kate Blanchett can see this performer's shoes, and then is able through previous interactions to recognize who this person is auditioning for that role. And let me push my nose up here, my glasses up to my nose. Actually, then the auditions for major orchestras are super competitive, and they do try and really like remove all prejudice altogether. So it's literally a blind audition. There would never be a moment where the auditioners or the people hearing the audition could get any idea of the person who's auditioning for them at all. Like there would be complete wall to ceiling, or not wall to ceiling screens, but screens all the way to the floor. It's carpeted, so they can't even hear like high heels versus leather shoes on the floor. It's really so controlled. The only thing they hear is the performance. They don't interact or talk with the performer at all. It's just the performance behind a screen, and they judge solely on that.
Interesting. I don't remember them focusing on the feet or anything like that, but I think they did a good job of, like, I don't know, you know, I'm not a tennis player, nor am I, you know, an orchestral musician. So I don't know what good versus bad is, but they did a good job of presenting somebody who is playing this, you know, because they got the assignment 2 days before versus somebody that's playing it who, you know, made this their thesis or however they presented it. Like, there was an obvious difference between the two, whether you saw the feat or not. It was undeniable.
So, everyone in this movie was a musician or is a musician.
Mhm.
That cello player who's in the later half of the movie is not an actor. She is a cellist who they brought in. They hired as an actor. Kate Blanchett, I believe she relearned how to play piano and then learned how to conduct. So I found all the playing, all the musicianship convincing because it was actual people playing these instruments, actual musicians.
Oh, was she playing the piano in that scene?
I believe
the teaching scene.
Yes. Wait, in which scene?
The teaching scene.
I believe
where
she
she's
was
getting the argument with that guy.
Yes.
Because they never showed her hands. I figured the camera would have been slightly higher if she was actually playing it.
I believe she was. But
why did they show her hands then?
I don't know, because that was not the focus of the moment. If she wasn't, I was convinced. And then later she is playing the piano. It's a much easier thing she's playing, but that was her playing.
Kyle, I'm going to send you a link. I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Okay.
There's a Reddit forum called True Film, which is where the film nerds hang out on Reddit. They don't go to our movies because that's for lay people. True Film is where the real pretentious snobs hang out. But there's a whole entry from like somebody who broke down all the music and how it applies to the themes of the movie that I'm sure you would nerd out on.
Yeah, definitely.
So I read it. I roughly understood it, but I'm sure you would get way more out of the post than I did.
I did find her idea of putting the opening trumpet solo of the first movement off stage to be such like a, I don't know, fresh out of college idea. Like, what if we had the soloist off stage? Like, I don't know. Like, that's something that like a new high school director would do. Just maybe these true movie nerds, whatever it's called, but they will give me a better idea of why she chose that as the character. But that seemed kind of a basic decision to make. Like, ooh, groundbreaking offstage soloist.
When that played, you know, the trumpet part at the end, I didn't understand what was happening because I recognized like the tune, and I was surprised. I just didn't connect it that must be how the Mahler piece is starting. I guess the Mahler piece is famous enough that I would recognize the opening part to it, but it's just like, you know, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, oh, I recognize this tune. And so it must be something surreal happening or something, you know, like, because it was odd that someone just started playing this trumpet, you know, like ditty.
I love how you're referring to Mahler as tune and ditty.
Well, no, like, so what is that opening, like, you know, riff?
Riff?
Can you remind me?
It's an opening solo. Do you want me to just like sing it?
Yeah, just like bop it, you know,
it's like,
a little bit.
Da 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 da.
Yeah. Yep. That's super famous, I guess, obviously.
I mean, but Mahler 5 is probably, if you've heard a Mahler symphony, it's number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they say that in the movie that she's done all of the Mahler whatever symphonies.
Yeah.
And they left number 5 for last, and then COVID happened. And so they haven't been able to play number 5 for like a year or so.
Can I tell you my one like famous composer fun facts that I know? It's like the only thing that I know.
Please.
Sure.
Beethoven had 9 symphonies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The good ones are the odd ones. That's all I know.
Just like the Star Trek movies.
Right. The famous ones, that's a good point. The famous ones are the odd ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you can remember the good ones and the bad ones.
That was a fun fact.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
You'll remember that.
I will. Absolutely. 100%. Anything else before we letterbox this?
If I had one nitpick, okay. I believed this character. This seemed like a real character to
Mhm.
me. I found everything they said to be believable to the character except for one moment
Okay.
where they went too far. And it's when she's listening to like the playback that they had recorded.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Hey, can you send me the MP3s of those?"
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh, wouldn't you like the waves?" You know, and the reason why the audio engineer said, "Wouldn't you like the waves?" is because the waves is a lossless form of audio. So you would think that a person would want the lossless, like the best high fidelity sound that they get of the recording. But
Mhm.
she says, "No, I prefer to listen to MP3s because that's how they'll be listening to them on the recording."
Mhm.
Which is true. Absolutely. They'll be listening to a loss, you know, a lossy version of the thing, you know, so that makes sense, right? It's kind of the idea of like listening to an album and you're in the radio after you've like mixed it, right? To see
Mhm.
how it'll sound on the radio, like go to your car or whatever. But I do not believe that character knows about the difference between a wave and an MP3 file and like how they affect the sound. I just don't believe that. And so I don't think that she would request the wave. I don't think she would specify the file format that she would want the recordings in.
Why do you think she would know the difference?
I think age is part of it.
Okay.
I don't think she is young enough where those technical aspects of the digital world
Mhm.
were something that she learned growing up in the business. And then by the time she's super big, I don't think she's actively paying attention to learn those kind of things. She didn't grow up with it, and then once she's big enough, she's not paying attention. She just get me the recordings.
I don't remember if this comes before or after, so maybe I have the order wrong. But there's definitely like other things in the movie that point to that, and so I don't remember. Okay, at one point she's talking to another character, and the character's like, "Oh, blah blah blah. I did this. I did that." She's kind of like doing a little bit of an interview of this person, and then that girl
Yes.
goes, "She goes, oh well, maybe you can send me some recordings." She goes, "Just go to YouTube. It's right there." And so
Yeah,
there's another scene of her like watching it on YouTube, and you know what I mean? She's like a little dissatisfied with the sound quality, but she's, you know, she rolls with it. I don't
Yeah.
remember if that came after or before, but if it came after, I could see her adjusting her thought pattern because this young person who she's interested in more ways than one.
No.
You think that comes after?
The MP3 wave file discussion comes before
Interesting.
the conversation with the girl where she's like, "Oh, so what album was it?" And the album's like, "Album? No, I saw it on YouTube."
Right.
You know, and it just shows the generational divide between the two.
But later on, she tells somebody else to go to YouTube, even though she hadn't even considered that as an option earlier on. So I'm wondering if she's just the type of person who is already feeling behind the times and has heard that somewhere.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
she watches another conductor on VHS. You know what I mean?
Not
Sure.
So I didn't believe that she would specifically request the MP3 file format. Kyle, you disagree?
No. I just to call Leonard Bernstein another conductor. I mean, ouch.
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, so Leonard Bernstein did a series of I mean, I guess broad TV broadcasts that were now on VHS, obviously, of like it's like connecting with music, where he was live conducting an orchestra, and then he would turn to the camera and like talk about the composition and conducting, and they're great. Like if you ever, I watched them in college. If you ever want to get like just sort of immersed in that musical world, and they're consumable by non-musicians. Like he did a really he does a really good job of breaking terminology down to that like the average viewer can just watch this and feel like they understand what these terms and why he's doing what he's doing.
Nice. Yeah,
Thanks,
I
Leonard.
don't necessarily think you're wrong, Zach, but I also don't necessarily think it matters.
Oh, it doesn't at all. I don't care
one
at all.
way or the other.
Yeah, I don't really care at all. I just thought, I was like, you're going too far.
Yeah,
I'm making
Norm-
her like,
That's why they're
know
nitpicks.
everything.
It doesn't ruin your enjoyment of the movie. It's just like that seems a little off for this.
I feel like I have a nitpick about the length, but I can't think of anything I would cut out that wouldn't hurt the payoff at the end.
Maybe the credits at the beginning.
Even that, I think, sets an expectation here. You know what I mean? That this is going to take a while to get to.
Yeah.
Do symphonies, I know they don't roll credits or anything, but do they have like a lead up that's, expected or something like that? Like maybe they were trying to emulate the feeling of
No,
going
they don't
to an
like
orchestra.
announce each player as they come in. On
I
first
know
cello.
I'm saying, do they play like a little warm up
No.
where it's like not the full thing, but
No, it's not like a
okay.
band where they like the no. What usually
So
what
if
happens?
so, if
is,
the symphony starts at 8, they start piece number 1 at 8. There's no like lead in.
no, yeah,
to
they're
get
already
you.
warmed up. They may be
Okay.
on stage tuning already, or kind of doing their own like noodling, warming up. Then you have generally the first violin comes out, known as the concertmaster. They'll come out. They will sometimes lead the orchestra in tuning, just like give them one final tuning note, and everyone tunes to that. And then the conductor comes out, and
Okay.
the show starts. The conductor may talk to the audience, or they may go right into whatever the first piece is.
Sure. Okay.
There's one guy on the internet. His reason for thinking that the credits are at the beginning
Mhm.
is because it shows the credits and then you see her like getting ready to go out to the interview.
Mhm.
And the first line you actually hear is someone say, "Are you ready for them?" And it's an idea that like she has so much control over her world that the movie doesn't even start until she says she's ready.
Interesting.
That was their idea.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Something I didn't catch on first watch, but on second watch I did, and it's not hidden, is that the movie doesn't actually start with the credits. It starts with a real short scene of her asleep on a plane, and somebody's looking at her through a cell phone, and there's a text message conversation happening.
Oh yeah.
No, that's true. I want that app. Whatever that app is where you can shoot video and text at the same
like,
time. That's a cool app.
Sure.
I thought that was WhatsApp or something like that. I just assumed it's something I don't use.
I don't know, but I think it's interesting that they give you like 10, 15 seconds of that. Then they go into the 5 minutes of credits. And then they
What
go
was the
into
text conversation talking about?
It's basically somebody who's talking to somebody. They both know who Tar is. It looks like a private plane because the seats are like the kind where you sit around a table. There's not too many, I don't know what you'd call them, normal planes where you have tables and seats that face each other. And the conversation is like, I guess she is human. She rests as well or something like that. They're having a conversation without her knowing it, and they're discussing her in a negative light, I would say.
Isn't that her assistant because don't we later see her assistant doing like we see that app another time in the movie where someone's
I think
like,
we should definitely discuss this in spoilers
Okay,
because I don't
alright.
think it's clear, but it is a mystery in the movie and it continues to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
I assumed
Okay.
it was the assistant talking to that Jessica girl.
Krista.
Yeah.
Okay, let's save that. I think we're getting into spoiler territory.
I think so too.
That's why I used the anonymous name.
That being said, non-spoiler, we haven't
Oh man,
talked about
Krista's
anything
in this
that's-
movie.
We haven't
Ruins.
really talked about interesting plot points in this movie at all. And so there is more that this movie offers than what we're saying.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you should listen to spoilers first, but just know on our recommendation, if you're into these types of things, you should watch Tar, I guess. is
If
what I'm
you're
saying.
in, just know though. I mean, this is
If you're
yeah.
into these things or you want to get into them, I think this is a good one to watch.
yes. But it takes more patience than your average film, I would say.
Right. But it's not going to go nowhere.
It
Some
goes somewhere.
some literally go nowhere. That's not this.
This goes
movie.
somewhere. And if this had not been about a topic I was so well versed in, it would have taken me longer to get into this movie. So for sure, personally for me, the fact that it's about Mahler 5 and conductors and that world of music made a much easier entry waiting for the plot to kick in.
Sure.
Typical like cool guy band teacher, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wait, Kyle, you mean the fifth Mahler? Because no one would ever say Mahler and then like 5.
Everyone says Mahler 5. They say the conductor first and then
That's too much like Last 10 Top 10. You would be more like the fifth Mahler,
All
I
right,
think is
let's
what
not
you
get
would
this
do.
right. Yeah,
Not engaging in
conventions
this one.
matter. I'm with Zach on this one.
no
Conventions
one
matter.
goes, Ninth Symphony of Beethoven. They go Beethoven's Ninth or Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Okay. Anything else before spoilers? Let's do it. Let's letterbox this. I give it a 4.5.
I give it a 4.5.
4.
A 4 and 2 4.5s for Tar. There will be a brief spoiler discussion at the end of this podcast. So if you listen past the outro music, we will come right back and spoil everything there is to be spoiled about Tar. All right. Let's talk top 10 pretentious movie characters.
Let's rank some movies.
Speaking of pretentious, I guess we should define pretentious, right? Which we did in our Discord before we made this list. But pretentious, according to dictionary.com, attempting to impress by affecting greater importance, talent, culture, etc. than is actually possessed. So yeah, this was a list that I guess I suggested. And so you guys decided or did Zach?
I believe Zach
I think Zach
suggested this one.
this. Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
top 10 condescending,
Right.
and then I said pretentious.
Which condescending is similar to pretentious, but not the same, for sure.
I will say in my list, I use pretentious in 2 different ways.
Okay.
So
the right
one
way
way
and the wrong
is,
way?
well, potentially.
Okay.
One way in the sense of they are pretending to be something that they're not in a way. Like kind of like the definition that you read,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like they want to appear better than they are in some
Mhm.
way. Okay.
Okay.
The other sense, in just in a like a insufferable
Mhm.
kind of way, where they would like everyone to know how smart or successful or whatever that they are, even if that's true. The complete lack of humility and insufferableness of them like expressing it, I find also pretentious.
So I had an issue with describing this Tar character as pretentious based on that first criteria of having what was the definition? Attempting to impress by affecting greater importance, talent, culture, etc. than they actually possess. Because I do think that the Kate Blanchett character does have all the talent and knowledge that she imparts with. You could see her as pretentious by Zach's second criteria of wanting her to let everyone know how smart she is.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, she did not seem like a pretender or someone who saw herself differently for reasons that were not true.
Well, I want your opinion on this, Kyle. I would love to hear your opinion on this.
I would love to give you my opinion.
That's what we're here for.
I believe a conductor is just an essential piece of the orchestra.
Okay.
I mean, really, like without them, it would all fall apart, right? But the way that she talks about her role, and it seemed so self-important in a way that I find a little bit exaggerated. In the sense of like, I think conductors are very good at what they do. I think they're very important. But she's talking about it on a level as if I just think at a higher theoretical level than is actually being demonstrated
Like
in practical life.
you're saying like she talks about being like, without me, this would be a bunch of lifeless bodies lying on the floor. Like I'm the one that brings them to.
I mean, she's just like, they're like, how do you get your inspiration for how you like lead them? Is like, well, it never happens live. Everything is worked out in the rehearsals, and live is just playing out, everything I've worked out already. And like, yes, keeping time is important, but I control time, like I shape time. Like it's just, that seemed pretentious to me in the sense of she was making conducting sound more godlike than my gut tells me it is.
Okay. I was a conductor. I was a conductor of middle school bands. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say like right now that I ever conducted anything greater than like a college level group, but I was a middle school band director. So just going to say, never conducted an orchestra. As a conductor, it is your job to interpret that music. That music is on the page, and the composer has given you, here are the notes, here are the dynamics, here are my intentions. As the conductor, you're the one who's interpreting that. Could you just do exactly what's on the page? Sure. Would anyone mostly care? No. But it's like, that is your creative outlet as the conductor, is how are we going to approach this music? I have heard Zach shaking his head like, how pretentious
No,
is
no,
this
I agree
conversation?
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
I've heard
Go for it. You go,
recordings
girl.
of the same, like you can listen to different Mahler 5 recordings by different conductors with different orchestras, and they're gonna be different tempos. They're gonna approach moments at a different way. So for sure, there is an importance of the conductor in interpreting that music. I do agree that everything you figure out happens in rehearsal. Like, for the most part, especially classical music, is not supposed to be spontaneous at the performance. It's not supposed to be spontaneous live. There should be no spontaneity. Everything should be worked out in rehearsal. That's when you get the kinks out. That's when you make those decisions. And then your final product is what you're presenting to in that recording.
What I guess what I'm saying and what I wanted you to engage on
Okay.
is the way she talked about it seemed so highfalutin that in practice I feel like she's trying to present it as I don't know, more complicated than it is, in the sense of she's like, I couldn't even approach Mahler 5 until I was 20 years into my career. And then even then I had to really dig into like his marriage and where he was at with with that wife or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's great. But you talk about it like it's so vital and essential to like approach it with these gloves. And I just like, I guess, but that seemed pretentious to me. Like,
Yeah.
she's playing it up to sound more important and self-important.
And I do agree. I think there is some sort of no, sorry. I think pretension is seen through a personal lens. So what you may find pretentious, I may not find pretentious.
Did you find that pretentious?
I found her self-absorbed. Like, I think she, like, oh, this is a great character who's very in touch with the world. Like, she definitely was a narcissist. She was self-absorbed, maybe a little dramatic in the, I must approach the marriage of Mahler and, Alma before I can even first. Yes, I think that was a little much. Though I do think that she earned the credibility she has. I think she earned her place to be there.
Absolutely, yeah, talented. I
Yeah.
would put her character in front of any other conductor and say she's as good, if not better,
Yeah.
for sure. Right? And I'm all about people taking their job seriously, but it felt a little pretentious.
Okay, fair enough. Pretension is in the eye of the beholder.
I'm with Kyle. I think she's really good at her job and she can talk it up however she wants. And that's because she can back it up. Characters who can't back it up, you know what I mean? Who talk a big game and also can't back it up. Those are the characters who are overvaluing what they do.
I gotcha. So you don't think just categorically someone can be pretentious if they're actually as good as they say?
I think people can see it as pretension, but I'm not sure they're being pretentious unless they can't back it up.
Gotcha. I would say even if people can back it up, they have a choice in how they present it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I mean, she's not humble. Like, there are many words to describe her that are not great descriptors.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a really good way to put it, because humility I see as presenting yourself as lower than you actually are.
Mhm.
And pretension or arrogance or whatever is presenting yourself as higher than you actually are.
Yeah.
So when I use pretension in the two senses, the one is presenting yourself better than you actually are. The other is in contrast to humility.
And with a sense of arrogance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And I would say that like the colloquial accepted definition of pretension doesn't matter whether the person can back it up or not. If you're being an ass about it, then you're being pretentious. But the actual definition of pretension is you're doing that and you can't back it up. But if you can back it up, it's not pretension. According to the actual definition of pretension.
Well, there's multiple definitions. Like even in the dictionary, that's the first listed definition, but it's not the only listed definition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't click past Google. Let's read the other ones.
You really Kyle Peterson that Google search there, Zach.
I absolutely did.
Given to excessive outward display, expressive of affected, unwarranted, or exaggerated importance, worth, or stature,
Mhm.
making demands on one's skill, ability, or means, making usually unjustified or excessive claims as a value or standing.
Interesting. I should have clicked this. This would have made my list way easier.
I found this
Collins
to make.
Dictionary
Yeah.
defines it as if you say that someone, or something is pretentious, you mean that they try to seem more important or significant, but you do not think that they are. So it's all about what you
The
think
perception
and not
of the-
necessarily
yeah.
what they are.
Yeah.
So I mean, that,
one definition
that loosens
of
up the
pretension,
definition a lot.
One definition of pretension is a claim or right to attention or honor because of merit.
Right, because of merits, which so like that almost contradicts the other definitions of pretension.
Well, no, I mean, what it means is like someone saying, because I can back it up, I'm going to demand attention. That's pretension.
Yeah, but I'm saying another definition we also had was someone who demands attention who can't back it up.
Sure.
So
yeah.
yeah.
So it's
Go ahead.
I
Zach.
based my list off the Google definition, which I think puts me in the safe category of all of them apply here.
Yeah, exactly.
But
For sure.
also, I'm willing
You're
to
the-
accept that there are other definitions and that nobody has to use that standard for sure.
You're at the center of the Venn diagram, James.
Right, sure.
I found this list very hard to make, to be honest. I did a
too.
lot more Google searching than I normally do when I make these lists because, like, I just kept thinking of arrogant a-holes. I'm like, well, is that pretension or is that just someone who's insufferable? And pretentionists can come with insufferableness, but it's not the only part of it. So
Mhm.
I definitely tried to get pretentious characters who seem to go beyond their merit or think that they had more value than other people for superficial reasons, but not always the case.
You guys ready to jump into this?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it. Longest preamble to a list ever. Number 10.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Way with Words.
Kipland Ronald, aka Kip Dynamite in Napoleon Dynamite.
Is that the uncle?
Napoleon's uncle. Yeah, the guy who thinks he's the best at karate and picking up ladies and all kinds of other things. And he really didn't have anything to back it up. And that's my number 10.
Nice. My number 10 is Campbell Scott as Roger Swanson in the movie Roger Dodger, which is I don't think is a movie we've ever talked about on the
No.
show. Have you seen Roger Dodger, James?
I believe I have, but I do not remember.
He's another uncle. He's the uncle of Jesse Eisenberg, who's like this young high school kid that wants his uncle to teach him how to pick up women.
I have seen this, yes.
And his uncle like takes him out basically in the field and teaches him how to pick up women.
Mhm.
And he's like it's like he's a pickup artist before that was a thing, you know? But he's like, he definitely wants to pretend like he's way more suave and slick and like above everything than he is. When really like he's like, when he's rejected by a woman, he like kind of flips out.
Mhm.
And he has all of these like very misogynistic theories about women and stuff like that he expresses so casually and coolly, but I think it's pretentious.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. Kyle?
My number 10 is Troy Dyer, played by Ethan Hawke in Reality Bites. Troy is this Gen X college dropout who is, you kind of root for him and Winona Ryder to get together during the movie, but he's also, he's too cool for the man, doesn't want to engage in society, and is maybe even a proto hipster. So he's a complicated character, and someone that thinks that they're better than society and doesn't want to take a part in all of it.
Nice. My number 9 is Vizzini in The Princess Bride, played
That's
by
good.
Wallace Shawn. This is the character that is playing mind games with the Dread Pirate Scott. Was that his name?
Red Pirate
Roberts.
Roberts. Dred Scott. Oh no.
Where'd I come up with
Oh
Scott?
Red
no.
Pirate Scott.
Uh,
Someone
where
needs
did
to
I come
brush
up
up on their
decision.
Supreme Court decisions.
Uh,
Is that pretentious to say that?
no.
be.
Okay, good.
Um,
Zach, was that James?
anyway, it's the guy who thinks he knows it all, and he plays that mind game where they're like swapping the poisons out, and then turns out he doesn't know it all. My number
Yeah.
9.
That's a great one.
Never get
My
into a
number
battle
9
wits with a Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when death is on the line.
That was online, yeah.
Yeah. Mine is Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum in
Oh.
Jurassic
Oh,
Park.
good. Yeah.
Especially when he's hitting on Laura Dern's character, Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
Is her name Ellie?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like talking about chaos theory and like doing the drop on her hand or whatever. And I was like, that is so pretentious.
That's a great character, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to find him insufferable. I think this is going to be a complete unique list for the three of us. I think there's going to be very little crossover. And
I think we'll hit something.
I'm sure, but like you guys are making these like, oh yeah, that's a good pick. So, James, you said there'd be a lot of arguing on this list, and so far we're like, oh yeah, I agree.
We did all the arguing in the preamble.
True.
I think.
Yeah, we got the argument out of us.
We basically defined it as anybody who knows something and brags about it.
My number 9 is Jasper, voiced by Jason Schwartzman in the animated film Klaus. This is a Christmas movie. Jasper plays the son of the postmaster. He's in the postal academy. He doesn't really participate because he's expecting that since he's the postmaster's son, he can just breeze on through. So his dad sends him to the farthest northern city to be the postmaster. And he arrives there and expects everyone just to fall in line for him right away and has to learn humility along the way. And about Christmas.
Sure. Since we've talked about that movie, I know you really like it, Kyle. Has it become like a tradition to watch it every year? Have you watched it every year or just that once?
We've watched it every year since it came out. So 2019, I guess 3 years in a row now.
Not too many years, but sure.
Yeah, and we just made our Christmas watch list to watch with Galen, and Klaus was on the watch list.
Nice. Very cool. My number 8 is Steve Stifler from the American Pie movies, who definitely likes to brag about his prowess with the ladies, and yet there's not much in those movies that backs it up, other than a bunch of talk, I would say. My number 8.
That's great. My number 8 is the character doesn't even have a name, but he's this minor, unnamed guy in the movie Annie Hall. And so Woody Allen is waiting in line for a movie, and there's a guy behind him bloviating about a director and or whatever, about Marshall McLuhan, maybe. I don't know.
I think it's about a critic.
Yeah,
writer,
for sure. And Woody Allen is just getting so annoyed by this guy. And he says, like, this guy is so pretentious and like how he's talking about it is so wrong, whatever. Then he confronts the guy about it and they get in an argument. And then the guy quotes Marshall McLuhan, who is, a well-known critic of technology and its influence on media's influence on culture. And then Woody Allen says that's not at all what Marshall McLuhan means by that, and he goes over to the next line over and pulls over Marshall McLuhan, and Marshall McLuhan then explains to him that he has no idea what he's talking about. So it's the most memorable, one of the most memorable parts for that movie for sure. And I was a communications major in college, and so I read a lot of Marshall McLuhan, so I was excited when I saw that show up on screen. But then also, it's kind of nice when you can have the author themselves tell you that you don't understand at all what they wrote. One of my favorite genres of Twitter is when people comment on someone saying like, you guys, you don't understand this thing at all, or you should really read this article. And the person they're commenting on wrote the article.
Like, I wrote that. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So Annie Hall, my number 8.
That's a good scene. Good pick. My number 8 is the character Helen, played by Rose Byrne in Bridesmaids. Helen is the new BFF of Maya Rudolph, who's getting married, and Helen wants to put on like this French themed wedding and take everyone to Vegas for a bachelorette party, and just has this kind of air of sophistication to her, which Kristen Wiig finds insufferable. And then we later learn that Helen just does it because she wants people to like her and respect her, and she's very insecure about herself, so she props herself up better than she actually is.
I need to rewatch that movie. I saw it once, remember loving it, have not seen it since.
It's good. There are lines that Megan and I quote from that movie in our household.
I feel like there's enough distance that even the jokes would be funny again.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember them enough that I think they'd be funny just like the first time. But my number 7 is Joaquin Phoenix as Joaquin Phoenix in I'm Still Here, which is a movie where he quits being a movie star and tries to be a rapper. And he considers himself one of the greatest rappers of all time. And it's very clear that he's not. And there's a lot of like talking about
decent?
What?
Is he decent?
He's like as good as if one of us decided to dedicate our free time to becoming a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, how good could we get? Probably okay, but never one of the best of all time, which is his goal in the movie, is to become one of the best of all time. And it's clear he's not probably going to get there. And it's a mockumentary, so it's not a documentary, but it's presented as it, and I enjoy the movie. My number 7.
Cool. My number 7 is Miranda Priestley, played by Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada.
Yep.
And she's the editor of a magazine, a fashion magazine. I forget which one off the hand. But she takes her role as editor of this fashion magazine very seriously as a tastemaker of fashion. And I have no doubt that she is very talented at what she does, that what she does is hard, and that she does, drive fashion in some way. There's one scene where she's, talks about a random color that Anne Hathaway's wearing, and she says how that was a decision she made 10 years ago. A trickle down, to Kmart or whatever. So I understand all that, but the fact that she treats fashion as the most important thing in the whole world makes her pretentious in my mind, and the way that she condescends to everyone.
Good. Nice.
My
My number 7 is Draco Malfoy, played by Tom Felton in the Harry Potter movies. Draco is definitely first presented as this very self-absorbed, self-important boy who thinks he's the greatest wizard, especially because of the family he comes from and the place he believes he should take within the wizarding world. And he needs to be taken out a peg or two throughout those movies.
Sure. I think that's why a lot of us watched one after the other.
Right. That's
Waiting
just
for that to happen.
Right. Yep.
My number 6 is David Wooderson, played by Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused. Another guy who has a lot to say about his ability with the ladies. It's never borne out in the movie.
Never is.
I really wanted to see it proved.
Keep waiting for the sequel that'll eventually come out.
They already made one.
They made a reboot?
It's not a reboot, but it's in the same universe.
What's it called?
I forget the name of it, but you go and I'll get it for you.
All right. My number 6 is Paul Giamatti from Sideways.
That's his name, Paul Giamatti. I was in the car talking with Megan. I'm like, Sideways. It's the guy. You know, the character after he became a main actor.
Yeah.
She's like, that means nothing to me, Kyle.
Yeah.
Paul
Also,
Giamatti.
Thomas Hayden Church as
Yep,
well. But
yep.
yeah, I'm going with Paul Giamatti. You know, he's a wine connoisseur, and pretty much anyone who's a wine connoisseur is probably pretentious in some way. But yeah, I'm going with Sideways.
They're called sommeliers.
No, that's not a connoisseur. That's a person that decides your wine.
That's the job, yeah.
Yeah.
That movie had a marked effect on Merlot sales after Paul Giamatti's character bashed Merlot as being like a common people's wine, a blend. And then,
Which I've always thought of Cabernet as the common blend.
yeah, no, I mean, it was people who don't understand wine, and I don't understand wine, watched Sideways, heard them bash Merlot, and says, "Well, I'm not drinking that stuff. That's
so
swill."
funny.
So, yeah.
Just to clear it up, not a direct sequel. According to bustle.com, Richard Linklater considers Everybody Wants Some, which was released in 2016, a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. And he pitched it to execs as a film taking place 10 years later in the same universe. So, by definition, not a sequel, but certainly the director thinks of it in that way, even though there's no connecting tissue.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh man, if he was smart, he would start the Linklater verse. That just sounds awesome.
And what, do another movie just 10 years later?
No, yeah, oh yeah, like I guess Boyhood or all the before.
He already does
Here,
those kinds
this.
of movies.
He should just brand like Kevin Smith's got the View Askew verse. He should just brand it the Linklater verse and print money.
Do you think Richard Linklater is secretly making Boyhood 2 right now with the same kid from Boyhood and just nobody's talking about it?
I don't know if he's secretly making Boyhood 2. I am positive he's secretly making a movie though.
Yeah.
Over the course of a long,
I'm
2 decades.
sure in sometime in the next 5 to 20 years, he's gonna have another Boyhood-like movie come out.
Interesting. But you don't
I
think,
think so.
you don't think it'll be attached to the original Boyhood somehow?
It could be. I don't know.
right.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to say for sure it'd be another Boyhood movie.
Okay.
I think he's gonna try to get a girl and follow her all the way until she has a girl, and then follow that girl.
But there's no guarantee that person's going to have kids, much less a girl.
I'm just saying that's my what I'm putting my money on.
Okay. Interesting. Fair enough.
And then they'll show the 2 girls in parallel throughout the movie. It's not just like chronological. We'll cut between each girl back.
Oh,
and
so
forth.
we're not getting this movie for another like 30 to 40 years.
He'll be dead by then. Richard Linklater's like in his 50s.
What if
40 years, Kyle.
I've got. Oh man, I just had that. Okay, what if he made a movie like where he follows like a woman or girl from like girl to woman. She has a child, and then he films that same woman, that child, doing the same thing, and then like recuts the movie in parallel, and then when it happens a third time, keeps adding on to it. So it's like this infinite loop of. This is a crazy idea. I'm gonna run with. I gotta get this down into writing.
Richard Linklater is 62 years old.
Oh, he's got a good 40 years to go then.
He'd be 102 when this movie comes out.
He's got.
That is the long game for sure.
Maybe he's got them Clint Eastwood genes in him or something. So, all right.
Well, if he could have started 20 years ago. For all we know.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm saying like he makes a movie and it follows like a person from like birth until they give birth, and then he follows that new child from their birth till they give birth, and then he recuts the movie in parallel. So now you follow both stories, and then when there's a grandchild, recuts it again to follow that, right? So you just keep watching the same movie, but they keep stacking a new story on top of it.
I'm into it.
Okay, cool. All right, where are we? We are my number 6.
You're number 6.
My number 6 is Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson in the Back to the Future franchise. Especially in that first movie, when they go back to 1955, Biff treats the McFly family like crap. and mostly because he has more money than them and he thinks he's better than them. He's a bully too. Obviously, when he becomes faux Donald Trump, he's pretty insufferable also in the second movie. And even in the third movie, Mad Dog Tannen is, again, thinks he's better than everyone else, including the McFly family. So, to the McFlys, they see pretension. And to probably most other people who interact with Biff.
Sure. I always considered him too much of a dolt to find him pretentious.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, but I mean, he definitely...
I believe he is by definition. I agree with that.
Right. It's tough not to like just go with bullies and a-holes and jerks.
Sure.
So I was trying to justify, is this pretension?
Speaking of those three things, my number 5, Commodus, again played by Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator from 2000. Just a super pretentious dude who thinks he's better than everybody else.
He
knows
probably
more.
thought he was God.
Probably. Yep.
He probably was told he was God.
Yep.
But being told and believing that you are different things. Like most people, if they're told they're God, they could
Mhm.
introspect a little bit and be like, I don't think I am.
Maybe not.
Not to totally derail this, but another person who
already
said he's
derailed.
God is Kanye West. Do you guys believe he actually thinks he's God, or do you think he just says that because he knows it gets people to react? And
He hasn't said that lately, has he? He's like become a
He-
Christian since.
he
I think
hasn't
he
said
said
that
most of those things.
since his, whatever transition he went through. But he did say it at one time. Do you think when he said that, he thought it was true?
He had a song on Yeezus called "I Am a God."
Right.
I do.
So you think he
thought it
does
was
think
true.
he is a God, but not the God?
I don't. I think when he says "I am a God," it says in like I am a God walking amongst men. Like I am
Yeah.
better than your average person. I don't think he thinks he's the God in that sense.
So you don't think it's a literal proclamation?
no,
just
if you
a-
listen to like "I am a God," it's talking about like croissants and things like that.
I think
What?
Yeah,
if you asked Ye, he would
Ye.
believe he's one. What?
Yee.
It's yay.
It's
Is
Ye.
Ye? It's not
Kanye.
Ye?
It's short for Kanye. Kanye.
Yeah, but he also goes by Yeezy, so I thought it was Yee.
It's Ye.
It's Ye.
It
Okay.
doesn't go by
It's
Yee.
Ye.
I just no Yeezus, Yeezy. He goes by Yeezy.
He goes by Yeezy, but not when he shortens it. It's never Yee.
Okay.
It's
well,
Ye.
I just read about it. I don't really want to hear what he has to say anymore. So
Okay.
I've been reading Yee this whole time.
I believe that if you asked Ye, he actually he believes he's maybe one of the top 10 most important people in history.
Yes.
Oh, I believe that too.
He's
But
also
there's
quite
there's-
mentally ill. So
like, and I also think that's delusional. But there is another level when you literally consider yourself a god. Like to me, claiming that you're one of the top 10 most influential, probably not true, but let's argue about it. Claiming you are a walking god is another level, I
I
would
don't,
say.
I don't think he's at like a David Koresh levels yet.
Yeah.
So.
Because
Yeah.
most people, I think, can look inside and realize that they are not probably a god.
Yep.
I think.
Zach, what's your number 5?
Paul Dano as Paul Sunday in There Will Be Blood.
That's Paul Dano in general.
Paul Dano is the pretentious one in that movie?
Yeah, I'm going for Paul Dano.
I don't
Is-
know about
is-
that.
Is that his preacher character?
Yes.
Okay.
So in a lot of ways, those two mirror each other, right?
Uh-huh.
Like you kind of find out like they're two sides of the same coin. I went with Paul Dano because he is a hypocrite, whereas the other guy is just a jerk. So Paul Dano is pretending to be holier than thou, and he's not. And he just lords over other people his morality in that film.
Okay.
And so I'm giving him the pretentious button.
Cool.
Nice. My number 5 is the HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. HAL is the AI computer on the Discovery as they're traveling to Jupiter, who we are told and who it is told it is a infallible thinking machine. HAL makes a mistake and is so convinced that it did not make a mistake, that instead the humans had made the mistake, that it will terminate all humans it can to keep its existence going.
I could see that. My number 4, Tyler Durden in Fight Club
Oh yeah.
from 1999, played by Brad Pitt.
Interesting. Tell me more about this.
I think he's kind of a know-it-all, and he doesn't actually even exist. So talk about not backing things up.
Spoiler for Fight Club.
I mean, come on. The movie's 23 years old now. Fight Club is almost 25 years old. That kind of blows my mind when I say it out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Linklater has already made a movie about it.
sure. He's he knows what masculinity is all about, and anarchism and all those other things, and he doesn't mind telling himself, I guess, is who he's telling when he's telling the other character. Played by what's his name?
Ed
I'm
Norton.
forgetting. Yeah, Ed Norton.
Yeah.
What's his character's name? Do you guys remember?
He doesn't have a name.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's the whole
They
point.
never say his name?
I don't think he's ever named in that movie. I'm pretty sure if you go to like IMDb, he's like narrator or something like that.
Wait, don't they name him when they say like
Robert Paulson?
No,
Robert
that's
Paulson?
Meatloaf.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I am
Oh, right.
pretty sure that, and someone look it up because I'm looking it up, but I'm pretty sure that Edward Norton's character is never named.
I don't remember his name, so it's very possible that's true. My number 4, Tyler Durden.
He's listed as narrator
Yep.
in the credits.
So do you think his actual name was Tyler Durden?
No, there is no
No.
Tyler Durden.
Okay.
Because he talks to other people about Tyler Durden.
And they just never say his name, his real name.
I don't think he ever gets addressed by name.
Okay.
Fight Club is one of those movies where someone who probably from our generation who saw that movie and got the wrong message from it. I want then who's the director? I just thought of his name.
David Fincher.
I want David Fincher to come out just like that scene in Annie Hall and be like, actually, you watched Fight Club wrong, and this is what it's actually about.
Well, I mean, it's the same people who listen to Rage Against the Machine and like never fully
Right.
considered what they're actually saying in those songs.
Which Tom Morello actually did to Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's like, I love Rage Against the Machine. And Tom Morello's like, you're the machine.
All right. My number 4 is John Goodman as Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski.
All right.
Yep.
Just because he bloviates constantly and telling other people like he knows better than them,
Mhm.
and he doesn't. He's just a big idiot.
Nice.
I can see it.
My number 4 is Veruca Salt, played by a actress I can't find right now, in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Played by Julie Dawn Cole. Veruca Salt, definitely snobbish, definitely stuck up, definitely spoiled, and thinks she deserves everything in the world because she is better than you. My
Mhm.
number
But
4.
in reality, she's a bad egg.
She's a bad egg. Yep.
Mhm. My number 3 is Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Just
Yeah.
insufferable, arrogant, know-it-all, I would
Yeah.
say, who thinks he's doing the right thing, and in reality, he's doing the wrong things.
Yeah. My number 3 is Jack Nicholson as Colonel Nathan Jessup in A Few Good Men. He thinks that he is well positioned to have better judgment than other people about the morality of what happens under his watch. And he's arrogant about basically like he's the final say on like what goes because of what he knows and what other people don't have to worry about. And
He knows more
Kyle,
than...
you should see that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you should see that
I'll
movie,
get
Kyle.
around to it someday. I feel like it's overhyped right now.
I,
It really
I have a
is.
friend that if you ask him like what his favorite movie is, they'll say A Few Good Men. And then if anyone is ever talking about movies, he'll like turn it to A Few Good Men. And I just have this theory that he's never seen another movie. Like I've never heard him talk or reference any movie except A Few Good Men. And I think it's the only movie he's ever seen.
Why don't you ask him?
I have. And he just quotes Few Good Men to me.
But have him. You gotta get him to set up a Letterboxd account and just let him start like logging and checking and see if
That'd
it's
be
only Few Good Men.
amazing.
Like he has
Yeah,
one
that'd be
movie checked.
amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
top movie of all time. Here's my top one.
Yeah. His last in top 10 is just A Few Good Men, but ranked like 10.
Oh, I fell asleep during this one. Number 10, number 9.
Yeah.
I like
Do you
it.
think you could force yourself to like a movie by watching it once a day for a year?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I could too.
Like if your goal is to like the movie, because I could easily see that
Or, like-
backfiring and forcing you into hating that movie.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that too. Like there's some movies that people love and I'm like, all right, I get it, but I don't know why you'd watch it 1,000 times. But maybe if I watched it 1,000 times, I'd understand why you watch it 1,000 times.
I think almost everything, the deeper you understand it, the more affection you have for it.
Okay. So just experiencing a thing over and over again will make you more apt to enjoy it.
I think so.
All right. You think that's a case for like, I don't know, ambulance sirens? Like this annoying, loud, piercing thing that you
So
probably
I don't think
want in
mere
your ears?
exposure is not
Uh-huh.
what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the deeper you go in. So if you were to learn about the science behind ambulance sounds, and then you like talk to the guy that designed it and you learned how he came up with the design
The
for
guy
it.
that
And
designed the siren.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And you found out that like he designed it a certain way because of the way his daughter used to, blah, blah, blah. And like the more you dive in, you grow an appreciation for it, I think.
I will say there's definitely a better chance for appreciation. The more you know about something, the more opportunity there is for you to appreciate something about it. I'll
Yeah.
give you that. Kyle.
My number 3
Mm-hmm.
is Mavis Gary, played by Charlize Theron in Young Adult. This is a movie about Mavis, Charlize Theron. She's a successful writer, I think on one of the coasts, and she is returning to her Midwest town for a reunion. And she's there to try and reconnect with an old high school boyfriend, but also just to kind of rub in everyone's faces how she got out of the Midwest, how she's successful, and they're all still schlubs living back in their hometown. It's one of those characters where you love to hate her because she is such an insufferable character and a
Mm-hmm.
great Charlize Theron performance.
I didn't know you'd seen that movie.
Oh yeah, that Young Adults was kind of part of my Charlize Theron. Like, oh, this is a incredibly talented actor. Like
Have you seen
I was
Monster?
aware of who she. I saw Monster a couple years ago. Not
Okay.
So like I was aware of who she was. Like it wasn't like I didn't know who she was, but I see her in like Italian Job and what's that one with Keanu Reeves, The Devil's Advocate, and I mistook her for Ashley Judd a lot. I thought she was in Heat.
You saw her supporting roles.
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
then starting around this point, I started seeing her in more leading roles and like, oh, this is someone to watch.
Mhm. Are you
Kyle,
boycotting the new Mad Max because she's not in it?
No, I think it's unfortunate that, George Miller's like, oh, I need, this is supposed to be a younger version and Charlize can't do that. And I think that's kind of some BS right there, but I'm not going to boycott it.
All right.
But I do think that she could have, A, easily played that role and appeared younger through makeup, and B, if they care that much, they're de-aging Harrison Ford for freaking Indy 5. If they care that much, they can de-age Charlize for
Are they
Furiosa.
de-aging him for Indy 5? I thought
Yes.
he's just old man
Nope.
Indy.
There is I've read that the opening scene in Indy 5 takes place in like the 60s, and they're using a de-aged Harrison Ford for that opening scene. And it's not going to work because we all saw The Irishman and we saw de-aged Robert De Niro trying to beat up a guy, and he still moves like an 80-year-old, even though he looks like he's 40 in that movie. So I just can't imagine how much like doubles they have to use to get like that indie action that Harrison Ford cannot pull off at all.
Do you guys want to hear something that I haven't told you yet?
Yes.
That I'm very disappointed by?
Okay.
I signed up for this company that like you do like preview screenings of movies,
Right.
and then you do a focus group and talk about it for like 2 hours.
Mhm.
And I signed up for this one focus group, and they wouldn't tell you what the movie was, but it was gonna be like 4 or 5 hours or whatever that you like watch the movie and then you talk about it. And I was all set to do it. My schedule was clear. I had the 5 hours available. But then my wife had a meeting that like got called last minute that she had to be at. And so I had to watch the kids. And so I had to like tell them that I couldn't be a part of the focus group. And then right as the meeting was about to happen, her meeting got canceled. So it didn't actually happen. And so I could have been part of the screening. Anyways, after it was over, I asked the recruiter guy, you know, we'd been emailing back and forth. By the way, what movie was it that the screening was for? And it was Indiana Jones 5.
Oh no. Zach, I'm disappointed for you. I thought the story was going to go with I was in the focus group, I saw Indy 5, and I hated it. And I just have to tell you now. So
I couldn't do that, but yeah.
I know you couldn't tell us what you thought. I'm sure there's an NDA you have to sign or something, but
I can tell you right now, you're going to hate Indy 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
All three of us will hate Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah. It's
Just
going to be
expect to hate it.
The worst.
I need to rewatch
Absolutely.
Crystal Skull before Indy 5 just so I have my
yeah.
like baseline set for hate.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, just don't expect anything other than hate. And then if there's something more there, then it'll be a bonus.
That's our only chance.
Right. Our only chance is to go into it assuming we're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And being pleasantly surprised if it's
But isn't that
mediocre.
disappointing?
Yeah, to get to miss out on that.
Yeah. Anyway, James, your number 2?
I thought you were going to say it was Mad Max. The new Mad Max.
Oh, Furiosa. Yeah.
That I would have been really bummed about. Indiana Jones it's top tier, but not the top of the tier for me. Is it my turn?
It is.
My number 2?
Yeah.
Is Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network. Just a insufferable tool played by Jesse Eisenberg. He thinks he's better than everybody because he created this thing that makes a lot of money. And I guess if you measure your greatness by that, then so be it. My number 2.
My number 2 is Jeff Daniels as Bernard Berkman in The Squid and the Whale. This is a Noah Baumbach film, and I remember watching it thinking how pretentious this dad is in this movie. The one line that I remember him saying is someone talked about this book by Charles Dickens, and he's like, yeah, but that's lesser Dickens. And I was like, that is my mark for what's a pretentious statement to say, is like, oh yeah, that's lesser Dickens.
Mm-hmm.
Like ridiculous. So yeah, The Squid and the Whale.
My number 2 is Rob Lowe as Benjamin Kane in Wayne's World. Rob Lowe is the TV executive that discovers Wayne's World on basic TV and gets them a broadcast deal. And the whole time, he just looks down upon them. He knows, or he thinks he's better than them. He thinks that they're just a bunch of kids on their couch. And he's just trying to make a quick buck off of them before he can move on to bigger and greater things. He's a real jerk.
Agreed. My number 1 most pretentious movie character is Rob Gordon from High Fidelity, played by John Cusack from the year 2000. And I would say I use that character in that movie as my template for how not to know a lot about something.
Nice.
Like, people find out I have a podcast, they find out my Letterboxd watch number, and they assume that I know a lot about movies. And as somebody who's experienced a bunch of them, I have. I do know a lot about movies, and I intentionally like knowing a lot about movies, and I pursue knowing a lot about movies. And that's okay, as long as you're not a jerk about it or pretend like people liking things that you don't consider your favorite thing as they're wrong to like that thing. Whereas like Rob Gordon, which High Fidelity isn't like a serious movie or anything like that. He's not a person you need to hate because he's arrogant about what he thinks good music is versus, bad music or wasted time music. But I try not to portray that, even though I might think it sometimes. I try not to make people feel like they're wrong for having an opinion that I think is, I don't know, uneducated about a movie here or there. Whereas Rob, as presented in High Fidelity, looks down on people who haven't had the same experience he has in music. So my number one.
Nice. My number one has already been mentioned.
Oh wow.
It's Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg
Nice.
in The Social Network.
We almost got there.
We did.
I am surprised no one has mentioned my number one, and I don't like using movies that I used last week on my top 10s. I don't like using the same movie 2 weeks in a row, but
So don't do it.
well, you can't deny that the most pretentious movie character ever is Cal Hockley, played by Billy Zane in Titanic.
Did we talk about that last week?
I had Titanic on my list of what was our list last week? I don't remember what it was.
It was so long ago.
I know. This is how I do these podcasts. I just do it and then I just flush it out.
It was Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, that's right. It was not boat movies.
Movies
This
about
is
the
wealthy.
wealthy.
About the wealthy. There you go. So definitely, there was a couple of times where I was like, okay, I've already done this movie last week because we did wealthy, and I think sometimes wealth and pretension can go hand in hand. Probably could have put Triangle of Sadness on this list, no problem.
Mhm.
But I mean, Billy Zane in Titanic is the worst. Like he's
Sure.
irredeemable. He thinks he's better than everyone else because he's rich. He's in the first class. He deserves the best, and he puts himself before everyone else, and has not earned any of that. Minus the fact that he's a rich guy.
I just found out 2 weeks ago that I know someone who Billy Zane has kissed.
Is it your wife?
What?
No,
Or did she
definitely
just
not.
okay? You tell
Nope.
you so. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Is
I
it
know someone that Billy Zane.
you
Billy
know
Zane
someone
has
that knows
kissed.
Kate Winslet?
Is that what
No.
you're saying? What are you saying?
What are you saying?
I know someone that Billy Zane has kissed.
Is this
Not-
Is this
I
a
know
public
someone that
person or a
knows
private
someone.
person?
Private person.
like?
And this person dated Billy Zane?
Yeah, like what do you mean
No.
by kiss here?
Are they related to Billy Zane?
No,
Why
Billy
did they
Zane-
kiss him then?
Yeah.
they worked with Billy Zane.
They're an
And-
actress?
They were not an actress.
Was this a consensual kiss? Are we going down a path here?
It was consensual.
Okay.
They dated?
No,
They went on a
Why are they
date?
kissing Billy Zane? You can just give us the answer,
they
instead of-
didn't kiss Billy Zane. Billy Zane kissed them.
Oh, are you talking like on the face somewhere?
Yeah, on the face somewhere.
Like on the lips or like on a cheek?
I think a cheek.
Oh, okay. So they were kissed by Billy Zane.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
why-
Such
is
a
that
weird
interesting?
conversation. You
I'm
you
just
refuse to give us
saying-
any details other than this one statement.
What details do you want to know? I'm just saying.
I
I
just
didn't
found
know
out.
I knew someone that had been kissed by Billy Zane.
I just found out a couple weeks ago that my friend was once kissed on the cheek by Billy Zane. Oh wow, what a great anecdote. Well, thanks for listening. Boom, done.
That's what you should have said.
No,
I'm
but,
just saying.
But you gave such.
I
a-
know someone that's been kissed by Billy Zane. That's
Yeah, but
exactly what I
that's so-
said.
Like what do you mean by know? Like, do you know Kate Winslet or do you know of?
No, obviously I don't know Kate Winslet because then my anecdote would be I know Kate Winslet. Like that is a bigger anecdote than knowing someone who's been kissed by Billy Zane.
That
I'm
would be-
saying you
What-
know someone that's just a normal person. You don't realize that they've been kissed by Billy Zane. And that was just something I learned.
I hope the next time you're trying to
Like a
think of
fun
Kate
fact.
Winslet in a movie and you're like, oh, what's that actress? Kissed by Billy Zane. What was her name? Like,
That's what I'm saying. It's as if I was friends with Kate Winslet.
you define all actresses from now on by the men that have kissed them. Like, oh, what? Oh, they were kissed by Ed Norton. What was?
No, this person was on an obscure Canadian talk show, and they were nervous to go out, and then Billy Zane gave them a pep talk and a kiss on the cheek.
So this person was Billy Zane also on the Canadian talk show?
I think no, he was just giving kisses
was he
backstage.
just hanging out at Canadian talk shows?
I think he was just also a guest on the talk show.
Okay,
but this was before he was famous.
Are we trying to guess who this mystery person is? I
feel
like that's what we're playing now.
You've never heard of this person. Right, neither of you know this person at all.
They're Canadian, possibly.
No, neither of you have heard of it. It's a private person. I'm just saying.
They're smart enough to be on a talk show.
No. It's like if James found out one of his friends had bought an umbrella from Brad Pitt. It's just like that's an interesting thing to learn about a friend of yours.
That would be interesting. I agree. I would need a couple follow-ups on that one.
You could have just said, I just found out that my friend was met Billy Zane. Oh, cool. What was it like? Oh, they were on a talk show together and she was nervous and he gave her a pickup or a pep talk and a little peck on the cheek. And
I find that less interesting.
We could have gotten to
less
this
interesting.
so much faster.
That's less interesting that she got kissed by Billy Zane, right?
Know, like that leaves more questions than answers.
Less people have been kissed by Billy Zane than have met Billy Zane. If I just said I know someone that met Billy Zane, that's silly. That's not worth mentioning.
That would be like
I don't know enough about Billy Zane.
That would be like you saying like, "Oh, do you know that I touched Steve Buscemi?" Like, what do you mean you touched Steve Buscemi? Oh, and then you go on, "Oh, I shook his hand." Oh, okay.
Well, no, that is how you tell a story. So, like, for instance, my great grandfather is the reason that Heinz ketchup is red. Like, that is a true statement, and it's more interesting than just saying that he designed the bottle that keeps it from going bad after 3 days.
It's not a chemical they add?
No, well, I'm sure they add chemicals to enhance the redness, but it would turn brown after a couple days, and he was in charge of designing the bottle that they used.
Interesting.
And so anyway, I like to say that my great-grandfather is the reason Heinz ketchup is red, because without him, it would have been brown. So that's just a more interesting way to say it.
Fair enough. When I was doing research for this, I ended up on a lot of articles that talked about arrogant characters, stuff like that.
Okay.
And one of them I thought had a real hot take that the real a-hole of Titanic is Rose.
Because
one, she didn't make any room for what's
on the door.
Jeez, I'm so old.
And two, she cheated on her boyfriend for a cruise fling.
Yep. She was engaged, wasn't she?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Cheated on her fiance for a cruise fling.
Yeah, but when you get that, it's just
what
something else.
Kyle, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to bleep that.
I think bleeping it makes it worse.
All right, somebody's gonna have to make a decision on that one.
Oh, make it worse and bleep it for sure.
Kyle made me laugh several times in this episode. I forget what the first one was. Where you made a description of somebody. Oh, the guy from Captain Phillips is a carnival worker.
Security guard.
Security guard. Yeah.
Carnival security.
I was in the right zone.
Funny, but it's funny. All right.
I do a lot of self-censoring on this podcast, just so you guys know. Like occasionally some comes out, but there's
every now and then we have to step in and censor you.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-censoring going on. You don't have to self-censor, Zach?
I don't at all.
Oh, man, there's a lot.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode 558 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always watch us on YouTube at Cinereelists. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, Cinereelists, or send us an email, heyguys@cinereelists.com. And we'll talk about it on the podcast. You can also follow us on our social media accounts on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook at Cinereelists, or you can follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can find me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaubin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week, if all goes well, we will be talking Steven Spielberg's latest movie, The Fabelmans, with an S, right? There's an S on the end?
Fabelmans, correct.
Fabelmans with an S on the end. So if you haven't seen that and you want to do a little pre-watching, go check that out. Also, another reminder, in a week or two, we will be talking Christmas movies. The Christmas movies you can pre-watch if you want to watch the movies before you listen to us talking about them are Spirited, Tree Man, and what was the other one that you already watched?
I'll Be Home
Zach?
for Christmas.
I'll Be Home for Christmas. Look
Which
them
is
up.
on Disney Plus.
They're all available online, one way, shape, or form. And that's it for the podcast this week. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, keep it. Oh, wait, one more. If you want to hear the spoiler chat, stick around after the final music. And with that, keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
This is spoilers for Tar. If you have not seen the movie Tar, or you don't care, if you haven't seen the movie Tar, and I should write this down. If you haven't seen the movie Tar, you don't want to be spoiled, you should stop right now. If you have seen the movie Tar, or you don't care about spoilers, listen on. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you very much. So let's start with the mystery, right? Who's got the cell phone? Who's filming her surreptitiously, filming her apartment, filming other things about her life over the course of the film, and kind of talking negatively about her in chat with whoever they're sharing the video with? You guys think it's the assistant?
I think it was
Yeah,
the
because
assistant.
they were
Yeah.
emailing back and forth about how insufferable she was.
Oh, they were?
But
Where
when
is
you
she?
say, when you say they, you mean the assistant and Krista,
Yes.
who's the girl
right?
we're going to
Remember
talk
when
about
she borrowed
later.
the laptop from her
Yeah.
assistant?
Yep.
She searched Krista's name, and there was a bunch of just emails back and forth between them.
Yep.
Complaining about her.
Yeah.
Is Krista the young lady who committed suicide?
Committed suicide.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense because in my rewatch, there's a scene where Tar is asking her assistant, "Did you delete all those emails
Yep.
between me and Krista?"
Yes.
And she's like, "Yes, but I'll double check to make sure I got them all." And she was not happy with that answer.
Well, because she knew that
Because she was
hadn't.
lying. Yeah.
right?
Right,
Because
she
she's
didn't delete them.
and she also knows that if people look hard enough, they're going to find the assistants. The assistant knew that they were going to find her discussions with Krista. I'm not saying she contributed to Krista's suicide, but there was definitely like a side thing going on between the assistant and Krista.
What
Not talking about-
What do you mean a
by
side
thing?
Not romantically,
Okay.
just a discussion about Tar happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're in agreement that it was the assistant was the one filming and probably talking to Krista in these text messages.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And then Krista, we slowly learn, because I even wrote in my notes at one point, like Krista ? Because they kept talking about her. Krista is a woman who committed suicide, who we learned was like used to work with both the assistant and with Tar in some sort of young apprentices program. And then later, we learned that Tar and Krista were in a romantic relationship.
Mhm. And then they broke up, and then she undermined her and got her out of the orchestra.
Right. In a romantic relationship where Tar was obviously her superior.
There's a power dynamic.
Right, yes.
Her-
And it's implied that Krista was not the first time this happened, and that Tar used this apprentice program to find sexual partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And she
yeah.
traded favors essentially.
Correct, yep.
And your career hung in the balance of basically how
Yep.
that went for you.
So that all slowly comes out throughout the movie and eventually leads to her, at least her professional downfall. Like we don't see her get any legal ramifications from this, but definitely professionally, she's
I think we can assume there are legal ramifications.
none that we see. That's what I'm saying.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would imagine after what happened on stage, there were.
Oh, well, when she tackled the other
Yeah.
conductor,
Yeah.
I was very confused by that moment because I didn't realize at first that they were doing that. Someone else was conducting Mahler 5. Like
They didn't want you to realize
right,
that at first.
the trumpet player's playing. She's not on stage. She's next to the trumpet player. I'm like, oh, this is very strange to like just have the orchestra start without a conductor, and then when it came in with the big moments, I'm like, oh, she's not conducting at all, and then she tackles the guy, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this was going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked how they
Yeah.
flipped it. And it was a very short amount of time
Mhm.
that they kept the secret, but I enjoyed it. And then, yeah, she's just unhinged and tackled the guy. She's like,
Yeah.
eyes on me. I need eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on.
So she then discovers this cellist Olga, a Russian cellist, who then she
Yeah.
hires. She's the one, she sees her shoes and hires her onto the orchestra. Did you get the impression that she was then gonna use, like, Olga was her next target for
Yes, for
grooming?
sure.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I wasn't sure at that point if she just like if this was like a weird friendship thing or she was gonna try and start a relationship with her. But
I think definitely a relationship. That's why she's giving her this like prestigious solo. That's part of the quid pro quo kind of unspoken thing that she does with these women.
Yep.
And then eventually she's like living at her house or her second secret, her like personal apartment away from her girlfriend.
that was her wife, I believe.
Wife. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Away
yeah.
from her wife that she just keeps for these kind of like liaisons. Yeah, I definitely got the sense of that.
I also found it really interesting that her wife was the concert master, who's like the first violin, and I wonder if her wife was when Tar started with the Berlin Philharmonic. I don't think her wife, they were together. I'm assuming they met through the orchestra. I wondered, was her wife the first chair violin when they met, and then through their relationship was she promoted? Like, was her wife another one of these women who I started a relationship with? We had favors. She became first chair. Now we got married. Or
They
was she
had a
always-
conversation about that.
They did.
Where she's like, I don't want you to frame this as transactional,
Okay, that's right. They did have a whole. Is this a transactional? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
But was it transactional? Even though she said, I want you to frame it as.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I think that's at least what's implied by all of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that was I did not see that plot coming whatsoever. I had no idea that this was going to be a somewhat of a Me Too plot about, someone in power grooming their subordinates. And this movie does slowly give you that. Where, yeah. Did you notice that Krista was at the talk at the very beginning?
No.
So during the talk, there is like a shot of someone in the audience from the back, like, and they're up against the balcony, and you see their head, and they have red hair. And then later, you see brief glimpses of Cate Blanchett and Krista together, and Krista has red hair. And I'm assuming that Krista was at that actual talk, and that's why they kept showing the back of this one audience member.
Okay. Interesting.
And I feel like there was other moments we saw that head, but again, it was one of those things where I didn't really know why they kept showing this person at the time until the end of the movie. So I'm curious if James picked up on that.
How rare is red hair?
How rare is red hair?
Yeah.
Pretty rare.
Is it like super rare, like 1 in 100?
Yeah, I mean,
I have no clue what the
it-
percentage is.
in my family, I have one cousin with red hair, and her parents and her siblings all have blonde hair, and then
Okay.
like grandparents all have blonde hair. So, yeah, I would say it's rather rare.
Okay, based on that. Okay.
Well, no,
All
I'm
right.
not. No, I'm not saying based on like. I'm just saying like
Okay, despite that then.
right, but like how many people in my family have blonde hair or brown hair? All of them minus one. It's not like 1/3 are blonde, 1/3 are brown, and 1/3 are red. It's all are blonde and brown, and
I
one
love
is
how
red.
you, like, unless you contextualize it with your family, who knows? Maybe it's a third or red. Like, it's just no way to know. There would be no way to know unless you contextualize it with your
I know,
family.
I understand how genes work. Like,
Yeah.
it's also genes are more complicated. Like in science class, where they said brown hair, blonde hair. Well, this is recessive. This is redundant. Make a little square. Like that was the oversimplification of it
Yeah.
all. Not redundant. Sorry, recessive and dominant. So.
I don't remember any of the discussion about the hair, and I've seen it twice. But I'm excited by the idea that like I didn't catch something. I think there's probably a lot of things in the movie that if you were to rewatch it, like I didn't catch the pen moment the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely caught it the second time. I think there's a lot of like subtle things happening
I agree.
throughout the movie.
James, there was a moment, and I wonder if you caught this, and I almost wanted to watch it again, but also kind of creeped me out. So a couple of times during the movie, Tar gets awoken in the middle of the night. Like one time it's a metronome, one time
Mhm.
it's her daughter kind of crying or talking, and
Mhm.
as Tar sits up, the camera kind of follows her, and she leaves the room. And I swear there was someone seated in the chair in the bedroom, like as the quick swipe by. There was someone in
Really?
that chair, and it creeped me out so much I didn't want to like rewind and watch it again. And
Sure.
nothing ever came of it, but there definitely are some kind of odd things that happen in this movie, like with the metronome, like with her going down into that abandoned building and the dog. Like,
That was cool.
yeah, so like this movie doesn't always feel like it's one. It's presenting a little bit of a heightened reality at times.
I loved when she was running in the field and she heard someone screaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nothing comes of it. Like there's no follow up to that.
Right.
Oh, I read.
I
Um,
love the scene where she has to like suddenly realize that the massage parlor that she went to is like a, kind of a prostitution kind of thing.
Mhm.
And she has to like pick someone and she like didn't realize it was that kind of deal.
Yeah,
Right.
I
And there's
saw
also,
I saw it as
one
that.
just staring at her. Oh, it was almost like an orchestra, though, like this whole row of
Yeah.
people in front of her. Yep.
Absolutely like
Absolutely.
an orchestra.
Yep.
Have you guys talked about did you guys talk about the ending?
No.
I mean, we talked. We talked where the movie ended, like how professionally she was kind of ruined, but we didn't talk about
Mhm.
the actual ending itself.
Sure. I like that sequence where she's humbled for
Yep.
sure. And she's kind of starting over, and she has no problem undermining super talented people at close to the upper echelon of society, right? Of like, civilized society, I would say. And she has no problem being the person in charge of doing that, like crushing the dreams of people who are very good at what they do. And her confidence in being able to do that is so destroyed that in that moment, she literally can't choose one over the other. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of it. I also think there's a backdrop of like, she's realizing the victimization of just this process. She finds herself having to make this choice, which is a much bigger choice than she intended when she walked in the door.
Well,
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
it also it makes it look so much more crass than she likes to think of it. Like she
Right.
thinks of these things as very cosmopolitan, and then when she's presented with this, it just feels a lot like the exact same thing, but a lot seedier in her mind.
Can you guys be since we're a spoiler, be more specific? I'm not quite figuring out.
So
not following your
the scene
trail
where
right
she's in
now.
the massage parlor and all the women are
Oh, we're talking about massage
are
parlor still.
positioned as if they're like in the orchestra,
Yeah.
and the woman in charge is telling her to pick.
Yes,
This is a mirror of what she's been doing the whole
I
movie.
see. I got the okay. I'm getting the comparison now. I got.
Yeah.
I
But
wasn't
it's
following.
after the fall,
Mhm.
and I think her
Yeah.
confidence has waned in the idea of she can pick or
Right.
that she's in charge of this thing or something like that.
Well, I think the reason she threw up, I don't think she actually picked anyone.
No.
I think she left
Oh,
right
no,
away.
not at all.
And the reason she threw up is she's just like, I never equated what I was doing to this, to
Right.
prostitution.
Mhm.
But I can now see that it was that. It was like a little self-realization. This is how I took it.
Yeah.
And the way the woman that she's considering looks at her,
Just stares back at
I
her.
think she
Yeah.
sees the same look of people who disliked her but needed her approval. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In mirroring between the symphony and this moment. And also it was a gross place to be in, and I think she realized that. All in the same big brush of vomiting. I also loved that she's probably going to get a brand new fan base. You know what I mean?
Oh, as a
like
video
she's
game
going to be,
conductor.
she might even be a happier person where she ends up ultimately in the end, because guaranteed people are going to love her for playing video game music. You know what I mean? These are like when they show those people in the seats listening to her conduct a composition from a video game. It's just going to expose her to people that never would have ever heard her name,
Right.
other than that moment.
You could have never guessed what the last frame of this movie would have been from like the first hour.
There's no.
Yeah.
No, even before it happened, like she's rehearsing with the orchestra. We don't know what she's rehearsing, and like she opens up the score, and it's like, what is the composer trying to say with this music? And you realize she's talking about video game music, which is a legitimate art form, but like it's not Mahler. So
Sure, it's not Mahler to people who know Mahler, but to people who have never heard that name, this is their high art.
right, yes.
So
And I will defend like there are some great video game scores, both from the 8-bit era as well as the modern era. So like video game music is an art form for sure.
Are consoles still in terms of bits?
No, I think they're in terms of processing power now.
So we don't because it was 8-bit, then 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, and then we left that behind.
I want to say PlayStation 2 was technically 120. Yeah, but once we got to PlayStation 2, they stopped counting bits. PlayStation 2 might have been 128-bit technically if you looked at it, but it didn't matter at that point.
What was it a measure of? The processor?
the colors on screen, colors available on screen.
Colors
I'm
available.
pretty
So now
sure.
it's millions.
It's just so high that it doesn't matter.
Oh, really? It was colors available?
I'm pretty sure.
No,
And
it was pixels, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Pixels.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, oh,
Like, how
not,
many-
not colors. That's different.
Not
Okay.
the number of colors available. It was the number of
pixels and yeah, how much
pixels.
information you can
Sure.
store.
How much information you can have on screen at once, meaning how many colors you can present at once.
Sure, but more than 8 colors could be on an 8-bit game.
More than 8 colors could be, but not on the screen at once.
You can only have 8.
No, that's not what it means.
I don't know exactly, but that's my understanding of it.
Because like an 8-bit character is blockier than a 16-bit character.
Correct,
Right?
yeah.
So it's just how many pixels per like square inch you could have.
Is
How
it
many
like
colors you can
1080
present on
versus
screen at once.
4K versus 8K?
Right.
in
But
that
the
sense.
processor would determine how many sprite colors you could have on the screen at once. From my understanding, I might be wrong, but that's what I always thought it was.
Interesting.
Okay.
And so that's why, like in a Mario game, you've got like 4 colors expressly dedicated to Mario himself. And then generally they don't repeat those colors anywhere else. They have 4 other colors for the level design. And then as you move, if like a green pipe is in screen, then like a brown object will not be on the screen at the same time because you're already using those 4 extra colors for the green pipe.
Well, yeah, that specific example is probably not true because, the Goombas could come out of the pipes, but maybe something else.
I'm just saying my what's novice, what's the word?
Neophyte.
Sure. My
Elementary.
elementary understanding of it is that it has to do with the display of colors.
Do you guys know that this original Nintendo could only support 3 tracks of audio? So like at most, video game songs could only have 3 different parts.
Mhm.
And if you had a character like when Mario jumps, it actually that jumping sound replaces the music, or like
Hmm.
replaces one of the tracks on the music. So like if you ever play Mario and the music's playing, and like if you hear him jump, you'll hear the music will actually stop, or that portion of the
It'll
music or on
drop
that
out.
track will drop out. So the jumping, the coin sound, whatever can be made, and then the music will come back in once the sound that the diegetic sound you're making is over.
Right.
Oh, the music will completely just cut out during other noises.
Or maybe the track that sound is on. So like there's 3 tracks. Maybe that sound was on track 2. So track 1 and 3 will keep playing the music, but the track 2 part will drop out for that sound.
And probably our brain just replaces it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
blinking. It's like your brain just keeps it going. But if you like actually listen, now that you know it, you can hear those tracks drop out. It's really cool.
Mhm. Nice.
Well, that sounds like the kind of thing you don't want to tell people because it'll start ruining their experience
Yeah.
once
So
they know.
FYI, that's how my
ruin your
brain
experience.
works when I hear music. So it's just super analytical. That's why I like Tar. I'm like, yes, you hear sound, you analyze it. It's great. I love it.
Anything else spoiler-ish on Tar?
Oh yeah, we're talking about Tar, aren't we?
We are.
Do you think a lot of people leave the theater wondering if this is a true story, like based on real events kind of a thing?
I did.
Or if Tar is a real person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that
I
too.
looked it up because I
Yeah.
was wondering.
I was curious if she was a real person, but I was like, I think I'd have heard about this. I'm pretty sure this is now things like this have happened with actual conductors, composers, in the classical music world. This is not they have the same problems that we see in other, unfortunately, creative and powerful worlds.
Mhm. Anything else? Are we done? We're done. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.